And to that piece of lieutenant that's always on his podcast, bash us, him.
He's smoking. Smoking on duty? Oh yeah, don't drop it now. You already pulled it out. What's your name and badge? Oh, don't get mad because I caught you, Nick. Yo, back up. Back up. Don't walk towards me. Don't walk towards me. Don't walk towards me. Especially without backup. Without backup, don't walk towards me, nigga. Without backup, don't walk towards me, nigga. Nah, you have a good night, nigga.
Please don't follow me from
You on duty. I'm allowed to record you while you on duty.
You're allowed to record
Don't worry
me.
about it. You got a gun. You're safe. You're safe. You got a gun. If you're scared, don't work for NYPD. I'm allowed to walk wherever I want freely. Oh, it's public sidewalk. Or I'm gonna get arrested. I'm gonna get arrested. All right. So what you telling me? Follow the law. Follow the law. Law enforcement. Follow the law. I'm allowed to walk wherever the fuck I want to walk. Nigga, you what? I can talk however I want to talk. Freedom of speech. Freedom of speech. There's no disorderly. It's no disorderly. No, I'm not. I'm talking. I'm allowed to talk. I'm allowed to talk. The crowd of people, that's my people, nigga. If you touch me, nigga, that's what's gonna happen. That's what's gonna happen, nigga. Do your job, nigga. Do your fucking job. You over here smoking a cigarette. You mad because you got caught and you about to get yourself in trouble, nigga. I caught him smoking a cigarette and he's mad. So he about to get himself in trouble by putting his hands on me because he don't know who the fuck I am. Yeah, and I don't care if you got a gun, nigga. That's the difference between me and you. I don't care if you got a gun, nigga. You could get treated like a regular person. What the fuck is you talking about? Nigga, I'll spit on you. I'll spit on you.
Do it. If you're gonna spit on me,
What the fuck is you talking about? Go home.
you wanna be pleased?
Go home. I'm allowed to talk. Freedom of speech. I can say whatever the fuck I want to say.
Go ahead, please spit on me.
I can say whatever the fuck I want. If you want to put your hands on me, I'm going to defend myself. I'm going to do this. You could have went downstairs. It's ego. It's ego.
Honest, he's creating a concern.
No, I'm not.
No, he's not.
No, I'm not. Do you know what disorderly conduct is? It has to be a complaining. It has to be. You can't. You're the complaining. You're the complaining. Are you complaining? You're not complaining, right? Not complaining. Are you crazy? I'm a professional. I'm a professional. My hands is professional. That's a fact. Yup. My hands is professional. If you touch me, I'm gonna defend myself. Definitely. If you wanna touch me because I'm talking, then we can do that.
I'm not trying to.
If you want to touch me because I'm talking, we can fucking do that. Go home. You came back upstairs.
Attention to roll call.
That's right. Good morning, everybody. 8:05 live Eastern time, and of course, Monday morning with the finest unfiltered. You know, every time I watch videos like this, I wish I had $1 for every time someone said my hands is professional. I got these hands. For every person they said they have hands, they don't have hands. If you have to tell people, "Oh, I have hands," no, you don't. These guys don't train. I would say the majority of the adversaries, the persons of interest, the perpetrators, these wannabe tough guys in the street, they don't have any hands. They have zero training. What they have is their mouth, and that's why they have a camera. If you had hands, you wouldn't have a camera. So, and anyway, your hands are occupied with that camera. So, NYPD police officers, this is no longer just a phenomenon. They have to deal with this on a daily basis. If there's no vision, there's no mission by the NYPD upper echelon. Yes, is there external pressures? Is there oversight from the Civilian Complaint Review Board, from the DA's office and the public and anti-police rhetoric? Sure. But what we need is good leadership, strong leadership to actually give an actual detailed mission of how law enforcement, the NYPD, should handle encounters just like this. And shout out to that cop, by the way. I just want to say, I want to give a shout out to that cop. If you're out there working, you know what? You did a great job. You kept composure. And I like the fact that you were walking away and trying to disengage. And when this perpetrator, and that's what he is in this case, was indicative and said that he was going to spit on the cop reacted and started to actually move forwards and take the offense and take an offensive position. So shout out to that cop. He did a good job. That's exactly what you should do. But there's no mission of the police department telling these cops what they should do and at what point they should take action. All we ever hear is de-escalate and how to de-escalate situations. But in this situation, this cop is being targeted. and many other cops are being targeted, and they have no clue on how to handle it. So for this cop, I think he did a good job.
Well, the thing is, we got so many influencers now that are making money, generating clicks just based off of this type of content. And it's been happening for about 5 years now. And the NYPD is yet to address this. The mayor's office hasn't addressed this. The other people that haven't addressed this are the NYPD unions. And, there should be guidance. There absolutely should be guidance for officers. They're being trained and brought up in a totally different time than has ever been experienced before in history. It's almost like an entirely new police department at this point. The department's made up of so many inexperienced young cops now, young supervisors, people who haven't been trained in that progressive, proactive stance of broken windows policing, that they really don't know how to handle aggressive encounters. Even growing up, they didn't really handle aggressive encounters. And it's really simple. Like, there doesn't need to be legislation put out. The legislation's there. What you're witnessing is a crime, right? And people don't understand that. There's a difference between your First Amendment ability to speak and say what you have to say, and your ability to film arrests, and your ability to film cops. It's completely different when you act in a violent and tumultuous behavior. You start to approach an officer, you take him out of his mindset, out of his frame of, because what are you doing ultimately? You're distracting him from his duties. You're getting in his face, you're harassing him, you're right on top of him, invading them in their personal space, and it's blatant harassment in order for profit. There's no, like, what comes of this encounter? You have this moron, what you gonna do, bro? He's getting himself crazy that he's gonna speak to me. I mean, honestly, if the cop dropped his can and punched the kid in the face, then next thing you know, he'd be crying and he would be playing victim and everybody would be saying how it's wrong. But honestly, that's really what needed to happen. I think, I watched a bunch of these videos. We'll go through them. We'll go through a lot of them. But when this happens, there should be consequences for it. And there should be easy, readable guidance as to what should happen when First Amendment crosses the line into harassment, into disorderly conduct. It's not just disrespect. It's you're literally violating the law. And not only should that not be done to cops, that shouldn't be done to anybody. Imagine you're just a regular person, you're leaving work, and someone's doing that to you, following you down the block, threatening you. I'm going to spit on you. I'm going to punch you in your face. I'm going to show you how professional these hands are. It's harassment clear as day, and the NYPD should have issued guidance on this 5 years ago. I mean, but now it's like, it's insane at this point. I mean, it's video after video after video. There's multiple videos every day coming out, and everyone's pretending like nothing's happening here. It's very simple. These people, especially this individual right here, he should have been placed in handcuffed. He should have been brought back to the precinct. If he didn't, just calm down, and he should have been issued a summons from the precinct or even arrested.
Morning, guys. Morning, chat. Hope everyone had a great weekend. Who we got in here so far? See BS Ski is back. I see 92 Charlie, Fox, Jim Riley. I think Jim is new. Good morning, Jim. HFL Chronicles, Stephen S. Good morning. So yeah, the influence economy is like $500 billion. So $500 million. So with all that money going through social media, I think you're going to see even more of this going forward. And it's not just this has been like a big thing. Those influences that try and try to get a rise out of you. They're called they try to rage bait you, right? They're a big thing, and it's not just in this country. We had a guy named Johnny Somalia who was arrested in South Korea for doing the same thing. Now he's facing multiple charges because they finally got fed up with him. So it's not just happening here, and even in Korea they didn't know how to approach this because this is such a new thing. But I agree with John that I don't necessarily think we need new laws in America. I think, or New York, I think there are plenty rules you could apply to it, plenty laws a cop could apply to it, And I'm not necessarily gonna praise him for walking away because I think either the guy is annoying or he's not, you know. And if he's obstructing you from doing your work, then he belongs. He needs a summons or he belongs in cuffs.
So I want to read a comment over here. And the comment is from John. John, what's up, brother? Great friend to the podcast. Says this is disorderly conduct and harassment, as John says. I disagree with Eric that this is handled well. It's not the fault. He's been told from his train to not engage anyone. It just makes it harder for the next cop to deal with this guy. Now, you're absolutely right. That I agree with you. Do I agree? I never said this is not a crime. I do believe it's disorderly conduct. I do believe that it's harassment, and I do believe that it's actually OGA because this influencer is actually causing this cop to divert his attention, distracting him from his mission, from doing his job, that this cop actually has to disengage from this post or whatever he was doing. So is it a crime? Absolutely. I think he handled it well, right? There's more than one way to skin a cat, right? Could he have approached the guy and put him in handcuffs? Absolutely. Could he have disengaged in the manner that he did? Yes. But he took a stance. He took a stance and he stood his ground. He was dealing with a complete idiot. Now, we've all been in that situation. We've all been in the situation where the cop is being taunted and nothing good comes out of it. And I know it. I'm telling you right now, as the most complained cop, I can tell you about an overzealous civilian complaint review board, nothing good could come out of that. If that cop did engage with the weak leadership that we have in the NYPD, and unfortunately, because of it's already escalated, and this influencer already put this cop in that situation, that it's going to become a physical confrontation. And now this cop is going to put this perpetrator in handcuffs, and it's going to be the trifecta of OGA, disorderly conduct, and resisting. And now that police officer with zero support is going to get a substantiated civilian complaint, going to have to generate a threat resistance injury report. And now this cop gets flagged for doing their job properly. And that's why I'm saying, yes, would I have put that perpetrator in handcuffs? Absolutely. It would have been another CCRB. Did this cop do the wrong thing? No. The problem is if we had support and strong leadership, this cop would have had the backbone in the sense that I'm going to place this perpetrator in cuffs. Absolutely. But the problem is there's no support. So I do agree. Absolutely, it's disorderly conduct. I never said it's not. It is a crime. He threatened to spit in the cop's face. He said, I have hands. But the point is, there's no mission. There's no training on this job and no sense of support. There's no leadership saying that if you're put in this situation and that if you put handcuffs and you put this perpetrator under arrest and bring them back to the precinct, that if there is a generated civilian complaint, that we have your back. That's not the case at all. And unfortunately, and if you get a substantiated complaint, the civil liability is on that cop and you're the one facing civil liability. So that's why I said in the realm that this cop is working with the lack of support, he did a good job. Would I put him cuffs? Absolutely. Is there a right or wrong answer? Not necessarily, but we need more support. This is one of those issues where I argue where some people say, is it oversight or not that changes your perception and how to handle things, right? If someone's already striking you, at that point, civilian complaint review board, the DA's office, all this stuff goes out the window, and you just have to act. But in a situation like this, I think that cop handled it well, and you could see clearly that he was aware of the external factors that could affect him in this situation, and I think that he did the best with the situation that he had.
The thing is, like, there's going to be a CCRB, there's going to be an IAB complaint. I mean, this is what these influencers do, right? This is what they do. They try to rile you up. Regardless of the situation, you're more than likely getting a CCRB complaint. You're more than likely getting an internal affairs complaint. There's nothing you could do about it. So there's nothing to even be in your head about it. Just, no, all right, wrong place, wrong time. This is what I get for choosing this profession. This is like, you're getting it. So there's nothing to worry about anymore. Like that portion's over. Like, so get that out of your head. The thing that where the job and the department has failed cops and has failed supervisors is that there is no protocol to fall back on when you go to those interviews. Well, I followed protocol. I warned the person several times to get out of my zone of safety, and they refused. They got louder. They acted violent. They acted tumultuous. They caused a crowd to form. I warned them again. And then I placed them in handcuffs. And while in handcuffs, they were still disorderly. So instead of just issuing them a summons, I brought them back to the station house. So for my own safety, because the crowd was continuing to form, the person was still acting violent and tumultuous inside of handcuffs, was acting disorderly. I brought him back to the station house. And then I arrested him. And and honestly, this is something, the one part that I missed earlier where I said we already have the legislation. I think that this type of behavior, and I think behavior like this that incites riots and goes really against public order, if you go to a protest, right, and you have those agitators, there should be legislation now due to this bail reform law that these individuals will not be issued desk appearance tickets. And that'll put this to bed. You know, Tony ESU says, you know, why didn't this happen to me when I was a cop? Because you know why this didn't happen? Because this was a weekend in jail for them. You know, somebody comes up like this, I got a big smile. I'm like, I'm not even engaging in that person. I'm like, bro, do yourself a favor and get out of here before I arrest you. And guess what they did? They heeded that advice. Because if they didn't, they knew that was a weekend in jail. That was a night or two in jail. Nobody wants to deal with that. You know, nobody wants to deal with that for content. They might make a couple of jokes. They might film this and put you somewhere and blast you out. But they're not going to get this. Like this is next level, and no human should have to deal with this level of abuse. Now, I'm the ultimate supporter of First Amendment speech, but just think about this. The NYPD was trying to lock me and Eric up for talking on this podcast, but they're perfectly okay with what's happening to these officers and civilians. They have nothing to say. There's no investigation done. There's no work being done to say, you know what? This is really against public order. And how does a woman feel walking down the block with her child that day? How does an elderly people feel with this irate, violent person yelling that he's going to spit on a cop? Do you feel safe? I mean, because I wouldn't. I mean, I wouldn't walk by that either. I think, you know, there's more of a chance I'm going to get locked up if I walk by that situation than that perp. And there's something wrong with that. There's something really wrong with that in society. You know, you want to film a cop, you want to make fun of a cop, you want to do skits, whatever. It's First Amendment. Do it within that person's zone of safety. After it turns to harassment and you're warned to leave. Shut your camera off or go camera from 20 feet away or over 21 feet away and say whatever you want to say. But you're not gonna get into someone's zone of safety. If someone's in your zone of safety, they are under arrest. I mean, that is not hard. And that is what should be labeled out in NYPD policy. So that when you do go down to IAB and when you do go down to CCRB, you're like, no, I followed the order. Person came up. I warned them. I did this. Whatever that policy is. If you guys need help creating that policy, we'll be more than happy to help you. Reach out. www.thefinestsunfiltered.com, because this isn't hard here. I mean, this is not hard stuff here. This is not First Amendment speech what you're watching. This is pure harassment, violent, disorderly conduct.
Already with the mic?
Nope.
His mic is completely muted right now.
Yeah.
You know, in the meantime, while Marlon gets his mic back.
Yeah.
All right. So first of all, I just want to say, hey, Tony, brother. Tony's always here. Great friend to the podcast. Tony, I always appreciate your input. Now, Tony, that was a different time. Now, I always say that a majority, unfortunately, the cops right now are meek, timid, and docile. But this cop right here, I don't know him, but he wasn't meek. He wasn't timid, and he wasn't docile. He was in a very precarious situation. You can see he was completely mindful of the situation. That cop wasn't scared one bit. As soon as this punk ass little bitch said to the cop, "I'll spit in your face," because that's what he is. He's a punk ass little bitch. As soon as he said, "I'll spit in your face," that cop stopped. He went, right, stood his ground, and he said, "Yeah," and he started to go back, and he started to advance towards this perpetrator. And what did the perpetrator do? He started to back up. This guy that is now, he incited this encounter. initiated this encounter. He's harassing the cop, and he starts to back up, and he starts to get back on his heels. So great job to that cop. I used to teach my cops, literally speaking and figuratively, that when you're in a situation with an encounter, you should be on your toes, and the perpetrator should be on their heels, figuratively and literally speaking. And that's exactly what that cop did. So to that cop, I think he did a great job. I know, CCRB, if you would have taken action, nothing good would have come out of it. I'll tell you exactly what would have happened. The cop would have put the perpetrator in handcuffs. It would have been a physical confrontation. There would have been a threat resistance injury report generated. So for anyone for an outside agency, that means basically a force report. For any police enthusiast. So basically, the cop is now targeted because the cop had to utilize force. The cop would have had to document that they used force. That would have been on the arrest report, all the reports, and that gets flagged, right? Ron Layson knows he was a commander in the borough. He would get the threat resistance injury reports, and they would say, "Oh wow, Eric Dim has all these threat resistance injury reports." Yeah, because we're getting violent perpetrators with firearms, and you get people like this. And now the cop is going to make the arrest. The DA's office is going to throw it out and dismiss the case because it's not worth it for them. It's going to generate a substantiated civilian complaint review board and civil liability. Why? Because there's no support from the upper echelon. There's no support from the job. Who's the job? People. Weak leadership. So, Tony, it's not a matter of whether cops are tough or not. A majority of the cops now are meek, timid, and docile. But a cop like this would do fine in your era. It's because there's no support. The leadership doesn't have this cop's back. You could see in his gait, right? We talk about the way he walked. He was obviously mindful of the external pressures and the internal pressures of the NYPD if he would have taken action. Clearly, this cop has probably been in this situation before and knows it's a lose-lose situation. That's why these influencers do it. These cameras are no longer about accountability. That camera is a shield for that punk-ass little bitch. That's what that camera's for. Believe me, that's exactly what that camera is, because that person of interest is not approaching that cop without that camera. And unfortunately, that cop is put in a lose-lose situation, and he did the right thing with no mission, no literature in the NYPD on how to take action. He disengaged as best as he could. So I think he did a good job.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not gonna go as far. I think he held his ground. I don't think that he did a great job, though. I don't. And to be fair, I just think it's because there's zero guidance. Like I said, do you think he didn't get a CCRB and an IAB complaint from this? Because he did. I mean, this generated an IAB CCRB log, like just you getting out there, So like it is what it is. Like you were put in that situation, and then as we go through these videos, I've seen multiple videos where actually the cops did take action, but not one of them have I seen them put the perp in handcuffs. I've seen cops write this individual, this guy, summonses, while he's sitting there going, "Yeah, you're small. Do this. I'm a professional. I'll give you these hands." Blah 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 blah. And they're literally the heads down. They're writing the summons. And I'm like, I think that they did a better job than just walking away and letting this guy come out unscathed, because I think forever we were always taught what happens when you walk away and this guy and the next cop that has to deal with. What happens to the next cop? He's emboldened. Right? Why is he silent the next time he deals with a cop? Oh, I already ran into a cop before. I already learned my lesson. And no one's learning their lesson anymore. And I agree with you. At the end of the day, the summons is getting thrown out. At the end of the day, the case is getting thrown out. I totally agree with you. But when wasn't that the case? This is New York City. Like, it's always the case. Now, was it always the case where we tracked every single CCRB on you and ruined your life over it? No. Was it always the case that every force report piled up on you and now you look like you're a violent abuser, and meanwhile all you're doing is being assigned to foot posts and you have maniacs coming up charging you and you're doing what you're paid and trained to do? Does it mean you're a bad cop? No, but that's the fault of the leadership. That's the fault of the NYPD. That's the fault of the executives going, "Why does this guy have 5 force reports this month?" It's like, well, why don't you look at the body cameras and see why he has 5 force reports that month? And then why don't you say, what are we doing about this as a city? What is instead of kissing the mayor's ass and looking for your next promotion, be like, "Hey, Mr. Mayor, what's going on here? Like, what are we doing here? Like, what my guys just got to go out there and get abused? Like, is that hard? Is that hard to do?" I mean, apparently it is. I mean, because everyone's just worried about their next job, their next promotion, and no one's getting past any of the issues. You know what I mean? No one's actually honing down and looking on the minutia of it. We're like, oh, look, this guy got 5 CCRB and 5 IAB complaints and 5 false reports. Yeah, that's what you created. That's what you helped create, Chief. That's what you helped create, Mr. Mayor. This is what you've made. This is the game. These are the rules you put in. And now you have to say, how do we go forward when we have a cop for 20 years who's on the street, who has to deal with violent encounters every day, and more than likely is going to generate multiple IAB, multiple CCRB complaints, and multiple force reports every month? Or are we going to say, nah, you know what? Let's just take their gun away and let's just have them not arrest anybody? Because what are we doing here? Like, in one instance, we're saying, go out there and do your job. In the other instance, we're like, just don't do anything. And I don't know what the messaging is for these guys. And either they don't they don't know it as well. And that's not his fault. That's not that cop's fault. He's watching what everyone else has done. He's getting no guidance. And he's like, it's not worth it. I agree with you on that point, that he's saying it's not worth it, but it's still not the right thing. It might be the right thing based upon what's happening now. There should be guidance. There should be clear guidance. This guy should not walk away unscathed. He absolutely should not.
I think the bottom line is, I think we all agree. And that's my point. Could he have done a better job? Absolutely. A better job would be placing this perpetrator in handcuffs. But what I'm saying is he did the best job he could in this environment with weak leadership, because I know the outcome. Now, I'm telling you, even though I know what the outcome would be, I know how I would handle that. I'm not walking away. The second he says he's going to spit in my face, the decision's already made. I'm already advancing, and I'm not stopping. I'm not. So that's one thing I don't agree with when it comes to this cop. But I don't blame him. I understand it's because of the weak leadership. He made the decision in his head. It's not worth it because of what the byproduct of the outcome is. But I used to teach my cops, and I used to do the same thing for me. Once you start to advance, there's no turning back, because now we've become toothless lions. So if I made the decision after this adversary said, I'm going to spit in your face, I would advance and put him in handcuffs. That means the perpetrator made the decision, you're going to be placed in handcuffs. That means you can comply. And if you don't comply, you're getting in cuffs no matter what. You're going to see those handcuffs. And yes, I would 1,000% be getting a substantiated civilian complaint for that, because I would not back down from it. But I know the outcome, because I've been in those positions where you're getting substantiated CCRB, and the reaction from some of my commanders was, well, couldn't you just have walked away? Couldn't you just let it go? That's the support that you get. And that was at the command level. Why? Because that's what's coming from the top. This is something that's been happening for years. Yes, the phenomenon is so prevalent the last 5 years, but this has been happening. This is a slow death. It's like one of those, when you watch a movie and they have the category, what kind of movie it is, there's some nudity in this movie, or some it's called a slow burn. That's what this is. This is a movie you watch. It's a slow burn. This was happening over the years. And John, the last couple of years, I was still out there. And I know exactly what position that cop would be. No support from his bosses. He would get a threat resistance injury report. Like, did you really have to do this? Couldn't you just walk away? So that's what it is, weak leadership. So Tony, my man, ESU, it bothers me too. It drives me crazy watching these videos. I would have walked up and placed that adversary in cuffs. And if he wanted to show me those hands, his hands would have been in his own face. So yes, I would have taken care of business, but I know there would have been no support. So in the environment, with the lack of support, I think the cop did the best job that he could, because he knows he made the decision. That cop was not scared. He turned around, he was ready to advance, and then it clicked in his head, this isn't worth it. So unfortunately, I think we all agree that that cop would survive in any environment. With weak leadership, that's the decision that had to be made. And with a union that's not going to support you to the fullest, unfortunately, that's the position. And that's why we're in the position we are, because that affects, as John said earlier, does it affect the next guy? Yes. It makes it harder and harder for every cop. But unfortunately, it all comes down to leadership. Marlon, welcome back, brother. Glad your mic's working.
Sorry about that. Can you guys hear me now? Yeah, my mic just blew out, so I got to use the one on the camera. So yeah, I was gonna say that I think it's simple. Somebody comes up to you and they want to record you, you tell them, listen, you can't record in my face. You can record me all you want, but you gotta, you gotta make some room. You can do it from a distance, And if they keep continuing to get close to you, you put them in cuffs. Put them in cuffs. Give them a summons. Take them back to the precinct and give them the summons. Okay, and that's it. You know, I think I agree with John. I think a lot of these guys are confused. You know, they you know, obviously the job doesn't want you to exude a certain level of masculinity. Okay. And by the way, Zohan Mamdani saying that he wants to get rid of rugged individualism is yet another sign that they don't want you to be masculine. Okay. But with that masculinity comes you know, being proactive and you know, telling people, you know, where their boundaries are, you know, actively telling people where their boundaries are. And the job doesn't want that, you know, and these guys, you know, they see all the you know, all the negative consequences of literally putting people in handcuffs. So, you know, you see where they're confused about how to react to a situation like that. But it's simple. If you can't, you know, update your memo book if somebody's in your face like that, you can't. All right. So if he's continuing to do it, you have more than enough here to give him a summons and put him in cuffs for your safety. And you know, then you know, after you bring him to the precinct, you give him a summons. I just don't understand why like we have to be so meek and timid when these guys show up in our face. You know, you're a cop. Okay, you're a cop. You're the law. You know, you're there are many laws you could apply to this situation, and you should do it to you know get these people out of your face. I think it's I also think that, by the way, that you know, me as a rookie, I would love if somebody came up and did that to me, because I'm getting an easy one out of you. Okay, I'm getting an easy summons out of you. So I don't understand, and I'm getting off the street for maybe 20 minutes or however long it takes me to do that. You know, so why not?
Mhm. No, listen, I, you know, when I'm watching it, it's, there's no situation where you could tell me that a cop should walk away. You're standing on the corner. You're doing absolutely nothing. You're doing absolutely nothing wrong. You're doing your job. Forget updating his memo book, Mullen. Can you see what's happening around you? Can you hear your radio? Can you respond to jobs? Can you help anyone else in that moment? You know, he literally takes you completely out of the job you're being paid for. It's OGA. It's obstructing governmental administration. There's a lot here. It's disorderly conduct, acting violent and tumultuous, being loud, causing a crowd to form. There's a lot there. But I'm not saying you need to go that far just because someone's recording you and being a jerk. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying when someone's coming up to you in a violent, tumultuous behavior, you don't stand there with the drink in your hand and you're like, yeah, whatever, and you walk away. Like, I'm sorry. That's not like, if we're going to say, all right, it's too much, the CCRB, the IAB, this is what they want. I mean, it's a great case for defund the police. It's like, all right, well, if everybody could do whatever they want and I could just chase a cop off of his post, what are we paying him for? Why is he making $160,000 that year? You know, and that goes for all the cops, right? Like that, like we can't just hand the streets over and be like, well, you know, this is all this legislation in place. This is all the stuff that's in place. And, you know, the thing is, cops need to just learn to walk away now and be abused, because when does that turn into this guy's just starting to crack the guy in his face or shoves him down those stairs? And now you have a dead cop. And again, I don't see how you're effectively doing your job, or you could effectively partake in public safety if you can't even stand on the street. It's like, dude, how are you learning when you go to high school if you get bullied every time you walk in the door? You're not learning. So how's a cop doing his job if every time he goes to work, he's being bullied by social media influencers? You want to film me? Film me from 20 feet back. Go right ahead. Say whatever you like. You come in here. I'm locking you up. It's that simple. And that's not getting bait. That's not getting hooked. And you know what? It's not getting violent either. If it gets violent, it's because he got violent. It's not because I got violent. I'm not getting hooked. I've been in plenty of situations where people have came up to me like this, and it didn't last long, that action, because once they get in handcuffs, it's totally different. If he decides to fight, that's on him. You have it on camera too. I mean, what are we gonna do? Like, what are we talking about here? Like, I really like I don't think that this is something that should persist. I don't think this is something that should be allowed to go on. And this is why the job needs to put out guidance on it. It's that simple. The job needs to put out guidance on it. Our new woke mayor needs to put out guidance on it. And the union should really weigh in on this. And because this is a really, really big problem. I don't blame the cop because he doesn't know what to do, because again, it's the blind leading the blind out here. It's just inexperienced cop after inexperienced cop. Everyone that's been trained in the de Blasio era, everyone that came up through this woke 2020 way of handling actual riots, it needs to change. We don't need legal there to make a decision to put this guy in handcuffs. You don't need your sergeant there to make a decision to put this guy in handcuffs. Now, I'm not saying to do it by yourself, but that guy's acting like that. I'm calling for backup right there. I'm sorry. And we can't walk away. I'm sick of listening to everyone say, you know, oh, he should walk away. Cops should just walk away. We don't really have that obligation. We don't really have that ability to do that. If we do, we don't have a police department. Oh, just when someone starts, you're out there, you're helping this woman who just got beat up by a husband, but then this influencer comes up to you. What are you doing? You can't do it.
Now, watching videos like that makes my blood boil, because the reason why I said the cop did a good job, I said he did a good job with weak leadership right now. And that even goes at the command level, or even at the level just with sergeants and lieutenants, because I know that I always had my guys back, and I would always tell them that. I know John had to jump off for a couple of minutes. He'll be back, by the way. But I would always tell my guys that I have your back till there's no tomorrow. But I knew the outcome. Now, am I walking away? The guys that worked for me, are they walking away? Absolutely not. But I know the outcome. But I was willing to take that. Now, that's why there's a dichotomy here. If you look before 2018, if you faced a potential civilian complaint in a situation like this, there was no fear. Because if you can explain that there are mitigating factors and there's a reason why you had to take action, well, then you were safe. And it wasn't much of a worry. Yeah, you get a civilian complaint on your record, but it wouldn't be damning to the point that you could face potential termination, that you have weak leadership to not support you. But after 2018 is the pinnacle moment where everything changed, where the Civilian Complaint Review Board got some serious teeth, where now situations just like this, so a perpetrator could put you in a situation where, unfortunately, your vulnerability, and with the threat-resistant injury report and the climate and lack of support, you could actually be facing termination, especially with that disciplinary matrix. So I think that, I have to be honest, Marlon, I think that you and John are simplifying this way too much, because I was out there. My entire time in the career, I had my boots on the ground. I didn't stop. And you could ask anyone. I never backed down from anyone. I'm not the biggest guy, but I never backed down from any perpetrator. I would absolutely put that person of interest in cuffs. But I know the byproduct. He's getting civilian complaint. He's doing a threat resistance injury report. His name is coming up at meetings. He's getting flagged. He's getting no support from his commanders. He's going to potentially face civil liability. He's going, and if he's on a list to make sergeant, you can forget that also. That's another thing. Now, even with that, would I still take action? Absolutely, yes. But what I'm saying is, the reason why he's in this situation, and the reason why I said he did a good job in this environment, because he has no choice. He has no choice. He has failed leadership. If he's Eric Dim and takes action, which is what I would do, he would be in that situation. So unfortunately, yes, you have to be willing. If you're out in the street right now with your boots on the ground, if you want to actually have that masculinity and protect yourself and protect others, you have to understand that your record is going to get peppered up, not because you're a bad cop, but because you're being taunted by these influences, putting you in that situation. It's a terrible situation. And that's why it's so important we keep hammering this weak leadership. The leadership should be saying this will never happen again. Here's what you're supposed to do. If this happens again, you advance and you put that person of interest in handcuffs no matter what. That person of interest initiate encounter, and they make the decision if they want to comply or if they want to go to the hospital. It's up to the person of interest to make that decision. But the cop, yes, the cop should put that person in handcuffs. But I know the byproduct. I know what's going to happen, and I've been there. Weak leadership. His commanders are going to tell him, couldn't you just walk away? I don't want that cop to walk away. I want you to advance and put him in cuffs. But when you do that, understand, when you advance and put that person in cuffs, you're facing a civilian complaint and you're facing the disciplinary matrix. That's why we need leadership to put out a message and say, if you put someone in handcuffs that put you in this situation, we have your back. And unfortunately, we'll never hear that.
No, you're never going to hear that because, again, Mamdani says himself he wants to remove rugged individualism. Okay, they don't want masculinity. They don't want masculinity in society in general right now, especially not men, because there's too much going on in society right now that a masculine society wouldn't put up with right now. And the last thing they want is the peasants to feel like they can change things. But I'm gonna disagree with what John said about issuing guidance, because and I'm gonna take part of your side on this, Eric. Guidance won't work because they don't train these guys properly in the academy, and the culture right now, like we said, is to get rid of masculinity. And also, if the cops did something, sure, they have to deal with CCRB, all these oversight bodies. So it's not as simple as issuing guidance. I think it has to start from training, and I don't see how that's going to happen. Now, with that said, me as that cop, I'm still going to do something about this, okay? And I mean, maybe it's because I was an active cop, but you got to do something here, bro. You can't just walk away. You have to do something. You're a cop, okay? You're the authority here, okay? If you can't tell this guy to get away, then what are you gonna do if you have an incident where you have a large crowd and you have to tell the crowd to back up or move away or clear the way?
Yeah, I don't know. I think you're out of your mind if you think that there shouldn't be guidance. How are you training someone if you don't have guidance on how to do that? How would you even have a training module of how the situation should be handled? I mean, we have guidance on how to handle everything. We have overabundance of a guidance on how to handle an EDP, and I think that whole procedure needs to fall on its face. But there needs to be a procedure put out on how to deal with this. I mean, that's my personal opinion. I mean, I respect yours, but here, look at this. Here's another one. Look at this. Now this is not even perp coming up to you in a foot post. This is a perp coming up to you at your job, at the precinct. So not only can these cops not be safe out in the street, they're not even safe at their own thing. So let's watch this. I'm going to be jumping back on and off. Apologize. Having a little busy morning here this morning. But watch this.
How dare you?
These are a bunch of perps showing up to a precinct. Watch this.
But I have a right to know too, right? Do I?
If he asks for it, you give it to him.
Did I say I'm not?
You went hands on with me. Remember that?
Yeah, you did. Like, all right. I also have a right to know. I also have a right to know.
He has a right to know.
I got a right to know as well, bro. Good boy. Good boy.
He likes that.
You get all of them on camera.
Oh, someone did him dirty. Oh, damn, bro. Yo, your barber did you dirty, bro. I'd be pissed.
Ugly as shit, nigga. Your forehead, look, your face is long and wide. You look like a whole TV screen on a fucking head. TV, microwave head. Dive head first into your mother's vagina again. Death and rebirth. You understand? Yeah. You look like a girl. You have girly hands. You have a girly hands. Your hands are small. Your hands are made for massaging penis. Fire flash.
My under. Fuck out. Charlie, you told me I how much.
Your forehead looks like a aphid. It protrudes forward, then back. It got good curvature to it. Yeah. But it's kind of lumpy, like on the sides a little bit. Like, Hellboy. Kind of remind me of, what's that dinosaur? You know what I'm talking about? The land before time and all that? Littlefoot? Yeah. Man, you gotta pull your wig forward, it's falling off. You got whiskers on the top of your head, too.
So,
Go ahead.
I mean, there shouldn't be guidance on how to deal with this. I mean, look at this. Like, what are we talking about here? The guy's in 3 feet Not even, he's right on top of that cop. Cop's looking down. Oh, I have to give him this card right at this second in time, right at this moment in time. I have to give it to him because this law, the Right to Know Act, says I have to hand over this thing. I mean, this is what we're doing. Like right now, what we're doing, what we're talking about is how we've been emasculated and what ways we could stop being emasculated. What's in our toolbox right at this moment in time to not be emasculated? This is an emasculated police department. You have people showing up to a precinct. They're standing this close to a cop. They could punch you in your face. They could stab you. They could do whatever you want. They're blocking the entrance to the precinct. And you have cops with their legs crossed, with their hands in their pocket, looking down, afraid to do absolutely anything. Like, if this is the police department, honestly, if this is the NYPD, I'm all for defunding. I'm all for it. I'm sorry. This is disgusting. And I'm sorry. It's disgusting to me. I don't know. This never happens to me. Now, as a private civilian, I could be sued. I could lose my house. I could lose everything. I could keep me and my family homeless. Nobody's putting me in this situation. Never mind when I'm wearing a damn uniform and I'm making $200,000 and I have handcuffs and I have arrest authority. That is not happening to me. I'm sorry. That is not happening. You're not coming this close to me. You're just not.
So one thing, I've been training my whole life. And in boxing and MMA and jiu-jitsu, there's something called a tell, right? What's a tell? That means a movement that allows someone to know your next move. And the problem is I think the cops are also having tells. And what does that mean, right? If I'm boxing and every time I'm about to throw a jab, if I drop my hands and then throw my jab, that's a tell. If I'm doing jiu-jitsu, every time I'm going to do a choke, I put my hand out, it's a tell. And same thing for MMA, right? It's also for cops. Just going back to the video before. And that's my message to that cop. I said he did a good job in the circumstances and the environment that we're in. But this is my message to the cop, though. If a perpetrator engages you before he actually made the threat of spitting on him, if you are going to disengage and walk away, then leave. Literally walk away. But once you're threatened and you start to turn back and advance, you have to advance and complete that mission by putting that person of interest in cuffs, not walking away, because that's where the tell is, that you just walked up and stopped. So now you gave a tell to that person of interest, and people learn, oh, this is the threshold. If I threaten to spit someone, the cop may advance back, but he's not actually going to place me in handcuffs. That's a tell. Now, in this situation, again, here's a tell. And it kind of piggybacks on what Tony ESU said. Tony, I appreciate the engagement today. I know this is making your blood boil. It's making all of our blood boil. Tony says, sorry to say this, but it seems they only do this to cops they think they can take advantage of. The way the person stands, carry themselves, how professional they look, know your job, do your job. Exactly. That's a great point. That's what I'm talking about. That's your tell, right? If you stand professional, you have your hands out, you're aware of your situation, you're at the ready, this will mitigate these encounters, right? So there are adversaries looking for the cops they think they could get over on in this environment. So one deterrent is exactly that, is having that professional image, having that mindset, looking the perpetrators right in the face, unlike what Michael Kemper said. Let them know that you're aware. Let them know, because it's in the eyes, Chico, right? Just like they say in Scarface, if that perpetrator sees in your eyes that you're going to take action, they'll probably not engage with you. So that is one thing. But unfortunately, no matter what, if you are put in a situation right now, because your hand's in your pocket, because you dropped your guard for a second, you were disarmed, now you're in a situation where you will not receive any support from the leadership. And I'll tell you right now, if I was in the situation with these cops or the first video, I would be getting my 60th CCRB. There's no doubt about it. I'm telling you right now, I'm not walking away. That's the way I'm built. That's the way I trained. That's the way I did my career. If I'm threatened, if someone threatens to spit on me or my cops or someone else, I'm taking action. I'm not going to walk and make a decision and walk away. That's a tell. But unfortunately, with the cops right now, who unfortunately are trained in a meek, timid, and docile society, this is the way they're trained. And let's go even further. That business card that was designed, that was not only rule and policy, that is law by city council, was designed to defund the police. Look at these cops. They're being ridiculed. They're being abused. And while they're being abused, they're taking out a business card and complying with these adversaries. That's insane. That was designed to defund the police. So you're absolutely right. This is, taking away from masculinity. Emasculating our men and women in the police department, creating a violent environment where they have no training, hiring people that are meek, timid, and docile, having weak leadership, and having a law that you have to hand the business card to an adversary is all part of this wheel of defund the police. So that point, I have to agree with you, John. If you're going to be in a position where you just allow people to step all over you, then why do we even have the police department? But ultimately, this comes down to the leadership. The way that we're dissecting this, the leadership, who is the job, should be dissecting this and saying, what do we do so this doesn't happen again? And here's a freaking light bulb to you, Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch. And it's not just you, it's your predecessors also. You need to intervene with the Civilian Complaint Review Board. You need to support these cops and say, if you take action and you place these adversaries in handcuffs, we will support you. Unless you do something so egregious and you go over the top, we have your back. But there's no support. And without any backbone, these cops cannot do their job. So I agree with you. Unfortunately, this is all part of that wheel of defund the police.
Yeah, I don't think Jessica Tisch cares about any of this, and the unions don't care about any of this because, like we said, it's a culture problem of the job right now. Okay, it goes all the way back to training in the academy that these guys don't get trained properly, and they're just taking that back on the streets and back in the precincts where there's no veterans there anymore to teach them otherwise. They're on a tangent. If you're a young guy watching this right now, guys, one of the first things you should do when you get out of the academy is get rid of this stupid jacket. Okay, a pet peeve of mine, because the reason why is because these jackets aren't tactical. Okay, and I'm a big proponent of looking the part and being able to be nimble and agile and do your job. And I don't think having a jacket like this with your pockets full like that, it helps you. You go get yourself one of those, the tapered old school jacket, okay? And take all that crap out of your pocket, please, okay? Look the part. If you look the part, half your job is done, because these perps are cowards, okay? They're cowards. They're not gonna mess with you if you look the part, okay? Even if you got a fake looking the part. And again, I'm not a big guy. I'm not a tough guy. But if you look the part, nobody's gonna mess with you, okay? And it becomes your job becomes a whole lot easier. So you have a uniform that looks sharp. Don't have your pockets full of garbage, because God forbid you got to run to an 85. You got to get into a scuffle with a perp. You got to arrest a perp by yourself. You're not gonna be doing that with all your pockets full and all these objects to obstruct your movement, okay? But the thing is, the job has a culture problem right now, and that culture problem is made worse by the fact that we're coming to the point where most of the cops on the job are going to be Zoomers. They're going to be Generation Z cops, and we've talked about it before. Unfortunately, the Zoomers, they've grown up with a lot less adversity in their life than prior generations. You have a lot of convenience. You pick up your phone, you order food. You can order everything off the phone. You could live life off the phone. And unfortunately, that's something that has hurt Zoomers. Okay, it's not all of them, but whenever we see examples like this, it's usually the very young cops. Okay, so they already have that against them. But the fact that the job has a culture problem right now, and the job doesn't want you to be proactive, and doesn't seem to care about having a veteran guidance in the precincts, or to teach you proper tactics, or to fight against legislation that impedes your tactics, is the problem.
Look, bottom line is, this is it. Like, the bottom line is this: you're always going to encounter jerks, right? I don't care how you look. I don't care how tough you look. it doesn't matter today because the overall image of the police department is that they are completely emasculated and they aren't going to do anything. Cop Watch Brooklyn's on here. He's talking about the cop smoking cigarette. You know how the cop should have acted when the perp rolled up? Oh, is he smoking? He shouldn't have put that cigarette on the floor. He should have smoked a cigarette and blew it in his face. You're not my supervisor. What are you worried about what I'm doing? Yeah, department rules and regulations. Go call my supervisor. He'll handle it. Get out of here. And if he would have did that, the guy would have walked away right away. Instead of being like, oh my God, I'm smoking a cigar, I'm putting it out or cuffing it, or no, you already got caught. Like, what are you worried about? You're already doing something that you know you shouldn't be doing in uniform. Who cares? Who cares? Who are you? You my sergeant? No? All right. Go call the sergeant. Skedaddle. Get out of here. Don't come in my zone of safety. I'm not taking anything to this extreme. When you come into my zone of safety, you have a big problem. One, as a law enforcement officer, you have a real big problem because you have arrest authority. But when you come into the zone of safety, I have the right to defend myself. I don't have to wait for you to throw a punch or you to stab me in my throat or you to do anything else at that point. You come within striking distance, guess what? You're getting struck. And for anybody that doesn't believe me, try to do it to me in the street when you see me. I'm not a tough guy, but like this stuff has to end right now. The emasculation of the New York City Police Department. I don't give a fuck about CCRB. I don't care about the little butt boys in IAB that are going to cover up for the Chiefs. I don't care about any of them. Your life is in danger. You decided you wanted to be a New York City police officer. You decided you could stand up to all the scrutiny and you could stand up to all these morons. When someone catches you smoking or doing anything else you shouldn't be doing, own it. What do you give a shit if Cop Watch or this little I am God loser walks up to you? I'll be like, sir, you all right? Sir, are you okay? You off your medication? Do you need an ambulance today, sir? You look like you're in a hostile environment. Why don't you walk away from me before you get arrested? Why don't you do that? Because these are the laws you're violating. You're harassing me. You're acting violent and tumultuous. You're being disorderly. Why don't you do that? Why don't you go ahead and enjoy your day? I'm not walking away. I'm not stopping what I'm doing. And if he doesn't, there needs to be a consequence. And the department needs to issue guidance because these cops don't have any. Their supervisors don't know what to do. They don't know what to do. It's obvious as they're literally coming up to a precinct and you have a cop with people right in front of his face and he's looking down and taking business cards and literally, good boy, like he's a dog. Yeah, I'll give you a business card. Get off these steps right now. You're getting arrested. I'm going to give you a business card in 2 seconds. I'm going to give you a business card when you're in the cell if you don't back up and keep the street free and clear. You want to protest? Go stand right there. You could stand there all day. You could say whatever you want. I'll give you my business card. But you're not standing here right in my face. Get out of my face right now. And when they don't, bring them in the precinct with you. It's not hard, dude. It's like this stuff's infuriating because it's being allowed to happen. We've been litigated to be emasculated. Doesn't mean you still have to be emasculated. This is what they want. Okay, so why are you going along with it? I don't give a shit about Cop Watch. I never did. I don't give a shit about this other asshole, I am God, or Little Richard, or Famous Richard, or whatever the hell their names are. This shit has to end today. Like, this is a cop is going to get killed. Like, this is what's happening. People feel free and clear to walk up to cops and threaten to spit in their face, be this close to them, stick a phone in their face. How is that cop helping anybody? Look at all of those cops there that day. How many 911 calls were happening right then at that moment in time that those idiots weren't responding to because they were letting themselves get abused by a bunch of skells? They were letting themselves get absolutely abused. That is not police work. That is not de-escalation. That is cowardice in its purest form. It's an absolute joke. The union should be enraged. They should be yelling, what are you guys doing? You don't let that happen to you. You're going to get killed. The CO of that command should have grew a pair of balls and been out there. The sergeant or lieutenant who was on that fucking desk should have walked out and showed everybody how to be a cop. But they don't know how to fucking do it either, obviously. Like, this is the problem here, is we've let these lefties tell us how to be police officers when they have no idea. They ask them to describe what de-escalation is for you. They have no idea how to de-escalate a situation. I'm going to de-escalate a situation because you're going to clearly understand that I'm going to lock you up for even the slightest thing. If you want to come and poke the bear's going to, you just found the right bear because I'm going to be the one that puts you in handcuffs. And for the khaki pants kids, I watched several videos where this kid went up to those kids and he didn't do shit. His tone was totally different. The way he acted was totally different. And those videos were about 2 seconds long. Why? Because he realized that, oh, this guy's going to lock me up if I don't do what he says. And he bounces right away. And so that's the blueprint right there. They don't give a shit how you look today because they look at all of you like you're ballless. They look at all of you like you're emasculated. So they don't care if you got muscles, you don't got muscles. They want to know one thing. Are you afraid to use those handcuffs? And most of you are. And that's the real problem. The guys that they don't mess with, I don't care how they look. I don't care if it's a girl that's this big or if it's a guy that's that big. When they realize that you're not afraid to put them in handcuffs and put pen to paper and give them what they want, what they ask for, they're not going to bother you. It's that simple.
Yeah, spot on. I'm a firm believer. So I agree with both of you. I think we agree on this conversation. But I do agree with Marlon that presence is important. When I was in the Marine Corps before the NYPD, it was always drilled into your head. You had your camouflage BDUs, right? Or fatigues, whatever people refer to them as, right? And we had these big trouser pockets, but you were never allowed to put anything in them. So they were just for show. They had to be ironed out, crisp. You had to starch them, but you couldn't keep anything inside. But just for shits and giggles, one day I was putting stuff in there just to see what it looks like. And you look silly. It looks ridiculous. And that's part of it. These cops do look sloppy, discombobulated. When you start putting all stuff in your pockets, it looks crazy. It looks stupid. You don't need all that stuff. I think that cops should be minimalist and carry the least amount of equipment. Have the necessary equipment around your belt, but these pockets need to remain as empty as possible for appearance. And the reason why I think a lot of these cops end up putting their hands in their pockets and they're looking down is because they don't have any guidance. Exactly what we're talking about. They don't have guidance. They don't have a mission. They don't have a vision. They don't know what to do. They don't know what to do with their hands. So they put their hands in their pockets, right? John, you and I and Marlon, we would be very active with our hands. We'd probably be what I used to call feathering. We would be touching the guys. All right, you need to move back. We would be giving direction, talking with our hands, right? Our hands were always in front of us as part of an interview stance because your hands have to be at the ready, right? And my hands would always be higher than the adversaries, right? I would always teach my cops that. It's called indexing. So that if someone does make a move, you're ready and you're prepared. So these cops, the reason why they don't have their hands out is because they're not actively engaged. Their hands are in their pockets. They don't know what to do with their hands. So that's part of training. Now, the other thing is I'm a firm believer that in any organization, you're only as strong as your weakest link. And the weakest link right now, the NYPD, is the leadership. And until we change the leadership and the mindset of the leadership, and the leadership actually has a vision, this will be the byproduct, and this will be how the cops react. And unfortunately, I've been saying this for over 3 years. A cop will lose their life to the hands of another without a firearm because of stuff like this. Are these guys just agitators? Yes. But eventually there will be someone that is willing to take action. These cops are meek, timid, and docile in this video. The first video, I don't think that cop was meek, timid, and docile. I think that the cop I think he did a great job in the environment, but I think he could have done a better job because once he started to advance towards the perpetrator, he should not have turned back. He should have put him in handcuffs. That's where I find the fault in that first video. But the second video, to me, those cops were meek, timid, and docile. I mean, they're in your face, taunting you, and you're still giving them a business card while your head is down. So a lot of physical gestures send off messages. If your head is down and you're pulling out cards and your hands are in your pockets, that's a tell. You're telling these adversaries that you are meek. So while I agree that the weakest link is the leadership, I agree with some of our old school cops here, like Tony Ishu and Joe Roscoe and some of the other cops, because if they had their heads high and their hands were ready and they were postured, those guys would probably turn back because it's not the size of the dog, it's the heart of the dog. So you're right, John. It doesn't matter. I had girls work for me that were 5'2", weighing 120 pounds, and this would not happen to them because they weren't backing down. Right? You're the law. Remember that. You have a lot more of a support system than they do. You're the law. Don't fuck around. They should know. Fuck around, find out, right? You're the law. And that's the bottom line is you have your hands in your pockets and your head down. What message does that send to someone if your head is down? If you saw someone walking with their head down, you think they're unaware, you think they're meek, you think they're weak, you think they're scared, insecure. That's the message that these cops are sending. But again, the weakest link is the leadership. We need new leadership. By God, I've been saying it. It's jellyfish after jellyfish. And then we have someone like John Shell, who's not a jellyfish, but completely unprofessional. When are we going to get good leadership? Right now, Mike LaPetra, you're the chief of department, complete jellyfish. How are you allowing this? And the unions, forget them. The unions haven't been out in the street in over 20 years. They have no idea what this environment is right now. They haven't been cops in 20 years. They're politicians. So these cops have zero support. Meek, timid, docile, with no support. It's a disaster. And this is why we're getting to a point that this is the norm. Unfortunately, this is happening on a daily basis. We see the videos that actually come out, but this happens time and time again. For every video that we see, hundreds of encounters are turning out just like this that we don't even capture.
Yeah. To be clear, we're not picking on these cops, okay? I know John Charles probably looking at this and frothing at the mouth to jump on Twitter on Friday and say, oh, these guys, look, they're picking on cops again, okay? We're not picking on the cops, okay? We're pointing out these issues because these are things that are going to get cops hurt, okay? You have to have a command presence when dealing with these guys, and you have to tell them you're a cop, okay? You're a cop. You can't be timid and meek and you have to do your job, okay? And doing your job means telling these guys to get away from you or throwing them in cuffs and taking care of business, okay? And again, I don't know how we're going to get to solving these issues if nobody at 1PP cares, okay? And nobody with 1PP cares because they don't have look at all the issues we brought up that go back to training and not having veteran leadership, and there's been no solutions to it. And you have Tish bragging about getting 1,000 rookies in the academy. Now, who cares? You got 1,000 rookies. I would rather the 200 veteran cops that be there that are leaving right now, okay? And just to go back on that uniform thing, I wore that stupid jacket for a couple of years myself as a rookie because I didn't know better. I didn't know the other jacket existed. But as soon as I found out that other jacket was out of there, I went straight to the buff shop, the police uniform store, for those of you not familiar with NYPD lingo, and I got me the old school jacket. And something else, I stopped wearing the stupid cargo pants. I went back to the old school pants because I realized after, chasing a couple perps that I don't need all this crap in those pockets. I need to be able to be nimble and be able to actively, be active, and I can't be that if I have all this junk on me, and I have these pockets themselves that after a while, especially in the older pants, some of the newer pants are different, but the older pants, after a while, those pockets would start to sag, and then you'd have all the clips hanging from it. And not only is it a tactical mess because you have things that could get caught in a fence or whatever, but it just looks sloppy. Which is why I went back to the old school pants. It looks sleeker and it's just better. Okay. But I didn't know that new jacket existed until I saw older cops wearing it. And then I asked them, hey, where do you get that jacket from? Okay. So the point I'm trying to make here is that you need veterans in the precincts. Okay. And these young guys aren't getting the training they do in the academy. So if you had veterans in the precinct, they have the example to set for these rookies, and they don't right now. So I don't know where this issue is going to get solved because the administrations that we have now aren't, there's no impetus to solve all these issues that we brought up.
Yeah, look, I'm not saying, look, cops should look the part. You should be clean. You should be shaven. You should have a nice uniform. That's not the fucking issue here. I could take an unshaved, fat, roly-poly kid who's 5'2" with donut stains all over his jacket and dirty boots and all this shit, and he's not afraid to use his handcuffs, and that's not happening to him. It's not happening to him. I'm sorry. It's just not. Like, yeah, should you look the part? Yeah, that also comes to leadership. There's about 8 million different police uniforms today. I look at the NYPD, and everyone has their own little unique style of uniform. That's a problem. Nobody's held to a standard. That's a problem. That's something they created. Oh, you could have your own little unique sweater. You could wear a hoodie and your hat backwards. You could do this. You could do that. Like, no, you can't. And so for stay trained up, John, defending yourself should be an 8. Why are you harping on guidance? Because if you don't have balls, if you can't read around what's happening and see what's happening, and you're like, oh, it's because of the DAs that I'm not arresting anybody. Oh, it's because of this that I'm not doing anything. It's because of that. Then here it is. Here's clear as day for you. Here, this gives you your balls. Now go be a police officer. There's the training for you. It's that simple. Like, it's not hard. Like, they don't know what's to be done because it's the blind following the blind. And it's a spirit of apathy, not just with New York City voters, with New York City police officers. Like, you have handcuffs on your belt for a reason. You have arrest authority for a reason. You wear that patch for a reason. You have a shield for a reason. That should never happen to you. I'm sorry. That should absolutely never happen to you. And for Cop Watch Brooklyn, no. You catch me smoking, I'm not saying, sorry, sir, you're right. I'm going to tell you, get out of my face or you're getting locked up. It's none of your business. You're not my supervisor. You're not inspections for the NYPD. You could go call them. Here's their number. Here's my business card. See you later. Now skedaddle. That's it. You know how many people would come up to me and I could just tell they wanted something? And they're like, and they want to try to shake my hand. Do you know what I did? What do you want? I didn't shake their hand back. I didn't give them my hand. You know, what the NYPD wants you today, they want you to be like that kid in the schoolyard. You're in the park, you're playing basketball, and some kids walk in, they're like, get off the court, we're taking the court. Oh, no, you ain't. Oh, no, you ain't. No, you're not. I'm playing basketball here. Beat it before I biff this basketball right off your face. That's it. Like, and so we're trying to train cops today. Oh, if you're just nice, everything will go away. If you just learn to de-escalate, no. Sometimes you got to show people what you're capable of. And if you're not capable of it, maybe you're not in the right profession. Maybe you're not. Someone brought it up here. Would we let Starbucks baristas be treated like this? No. What's going to happen if somebody acted like this to a Starbucks barista? What's going to happen? NYPD is going to come there and lock those people up. So why are they doing it for themselves? You know, it's ridiculous. Watch this video. This one's even more infuriating than I think all. This should never happen. And honestly, to the sergeant, I'm just going to say it right off the bat. I am picking on you. So John Shell, you could tweet about this on Friday because he needs to be a fucking leader. He needs to be a sergeant. This is absolutely disgusting.
Yo, that makes y'all feel good? That makes y'all feel good?
I wasn't doing anything illegal. You
Huh?
in trouble. So now you have to fix.
That makes y'all feel good.
I who you're talking to. I don't want you to
That
think
makes
I'm
y'all feel good.
exaggerating. I don't want you to think I'm a nigga just talking.
Huh?
You are
Do I
trouble.
need assistance?
You have
Try.
no reason to
Try some
come inside the
assistance.
restroom
Try some
and tell me
assistance.
I
Let's see how that
have to
goes. Let's see how it goes. I'm not him. I'm not him. I don't need to step back. It's mad space. It's mad space. You nervous? You nervous? I bet. It's not going to be this easy to put me in cuffs. So let's do that. Let's do that. Yeah. Let's go. I can talk as loud as I want to. I'm in America. Terrorists, domestic terrorists. I'm in America. What about it? You want to silence me? Try that. Come on, you already got the gloves on. Let's go hands on. Let's go hands on. Bring like 2 more, yeah. You heard? Y'all gonna need a little bit more. Yeah, I get those looks all the time. You gonna see what your face look like after. You heard?
I'm gonna ask the question again.
Look what they doing. Look what they doing, my peeps. Look at what they doing, my peeps. They think they tough. They think they tough. You heard? I don't need that gun. You heard?
We're good. You answered the question today why I'm in handcuffs.
Fucking doodle ass dress. The fuck? What the fuck is that? Fuck is that? Fake ass cornrows.
What you say is
Fuck is you talking about?
That's what's called
Telling me I can't move, nigga. You dumb?
When a person is in a single
You fucking dumb?
They have constitutional Fourth Amendment rights.
They don't know about that. They only know NYPD policy. That's the only thing they know, and they barely know that. They barely know fucking that. They just do shit all day and find out. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. So I don't do talking. We could do that too. The body cam already on. We could definitely do that. You know what I'm talking about. We can figure out what I'm talking about in court. Don't even got 3 stripes. Trying to move like the boss, nigga. You not running shit. You got this nigga that you gotta suck his dick, you heard? You heard? You do what he say. You get on your knees. You heard? You can't never act tough, nigga. You do what he says, nigga. Fuck is you talking about? Little ass puppet, nigga. You a puppet. You a fucking puppet too. You look like one, nigga. Your big ass jawline. Your big ass fucking jawline, nigga. Your jawline so big it's coming out your fucking mouth, nigga.
Okay, so this video actually I find is the most egregious. Now, the first one, I thought the cop did the best he could in that environment. I would have made the arrest. The second video, they were just a bunch of idiots, and those cops were completely meek, timid, and docile. Those guys were getting the rocks off by taunting the cops. But this video is by far the most egregious. For one, these cops already have a job to handle. They clearly have someone in handcuffs. They have to get this person in custody, whether it's an EDP or who's going to be transported by ambulance, or if they're actually bringing this person back to the precinct. Now, I do find the failure on the sergeant. The sergeant should have told the cops, listen, take care of this, watch the person of interest, and I'm going to put this perpetrator in handcuffs right now. We're going to put this thing to bed. That person of interest was causing them to divert their attention, distract them from their mission, whatever the context is, whatever they would handle, if it was a emotionally disturbed person, or if it was a summons or a perpetrator being arrested. That was egregious, and they didn't take action. That's where I'm saying that's a tell. It's a tell that, hey, you're allowed to push it this far, and now these influencers know in another situation of how far they could push it because they've already gotten the tells. And with situations like this, yes, as I think it was Tony Ishu who said it earlier, or maybe it was Joe Roscoe, that makes it more difficult for the next encounter. Absolutely. Now, the sergeant clearly was saying, hey, he wasn't intimidated. But at the same token, it's exactly what I said before. That sergeant should have put the phone away and said, you know what? You diverted my attention. Now you got my attention. And now I'm going to place you in handcuffs. That's what the sergeant said. You know what? I'm checking something right now. The sergeant should have put his phone away, take his hands out, and said, you know what? Now I am taking action, and start advancing to the perpetrator and put him in handcuffs. You asked for my attention. Now you got it. And that's why I said the reason why the sergeant and the cops in the other video are not using their hands, because they don't know what to do. If you have empty hands, you have to take those hands out and use them. So we're lacking confidence. We're lacking ability. Yes, there's no support system. But in a situation like this, you have to take action. This video I find the most egregious, and you have to. This person of interest is causing them to divert their attention, distract them, potentially going to cause a crowd while they have someone in handcuffs already. That's how you de-escalate that situation. That person of interest should have been placed in handcuffs immediately. Exactly what I said before. You want my attention? Now you got it.
To be fair, we don't know how long the situation went on, and we don't know what the stop was for. If they were waiting for a show up for I don't know, crime or whoever. So if that was the case, then I know they might be afraid of leaving the perp with one cop there. But the sergeant should at least get on the radio and call for additional units. Okay, if you can't take action and put that other guy, that other perp in cuffs, get on the radio and get a couple units over here so they can do it. So you guys could go back to, I don't know, waiting for the show up to come for the other perp without worrying that he may try and escape. I'm just to go back on what John said. I'm sorry, John, but I really have to push back on this, because if you look like a slob on the job, perps will they size you up the minute you get on that block. Okay, and if you look like a perp, wait, you're muted. If you look like a slob, they're gonna think they can get one over on you. Okay, even if you can do something about it, that the job is half done if you look like you're ready for business. And yeah, so just to be fair, I think that sergeant should at least get on the radio and call for help. Okay, you got to do something. You can't just stand there and be like, it looked like you don't know how to respond to a situation. You have many tools on you that you could use it, okay, including and most importantly, the radio.
Yeah, and look, I never said you should look dirty. What I said was, I said you should be clean. I thought I was clear in that. You should be clean. You should look like the police. But it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't matter if you're in shape. It doesn't matter if you train. It doesn't matter if you look good. If you're not willing to use your handcuffs, not one of those things matter. You are a terrible cop. If you're not willing to follow through with police work, I don't care if you look like a chiseled statue and you're Adonis and you're a 3rd-degree black belt. None of that shit matters to me. That's all I'm saying is, like, I'm not saying not to be clean. I'm just saying, like, we have to be real. There is a problem. There is the inability to move forward. Like, there's something happening with all of these cops today. Not all of them, but the overwhelming majority of them. I mean, look at this situation here. I mean, I'll tell you right now, this never happens. Somebody approaches to us right there. I'm going to tell that guy's not sitting on the floor anymore. I'm going to tell one of my cops, you hold them, let's go. Now we got 2 under. That's not happening to me. You're interfering. That is OGA in its clearest form. I'm going to warn the person several times. You're interfering with the scene. You're distracting from my duties. You're interfering with an arrest right here. This is obstruction of governmental administration. You are going to be arrested. If you do not leave right now, you want to film me? Go stand 20 feet back and you can film me. You can say whatever you want. You do not exit this space right now. You're going to be arrested. And if he says a word, he's getting arrested. That's it. That never happens to me. I'm sorry. I've had this happen to me several times, and that's exactly how I handled it. And a few times, the guy was dumb enough to test me to see if I wouldn't do it. And guess what? We had 2 under instead of just 1. It is what it is. Like, I'm sorry. That is clear. This should not happen. This is endangering. You have 2 cops sitting there with their hands in their pockets, with a perp on the floor, handcuffed. Nobody's holding them, and they have their back to someone who's right in their face saying shit to them. What if he just comes around and punches them in the face? What if he just punches them in the back of the head? What if he just does this? And what does this say to everybody else on the street? What does it tell everybody else on the street? You're nobody. You're nothing. You can't do anything. You have no authority. Why should anybody listen to you? Why should anybody listen to the police? Why do we even have police? Why? So you could go lock up a homeless guy on the street? What do we have the police for then? I'm sorry. I don't give a shit what the situation was. Call for another unit. Be a sergeant. You have 3 cops there. You got 1 already in handcuffs. He's already contained. Put 1. You hold him. Let's go. Me and you. We're going to have 2 under in 2 seconds. That's it. You have to be the police. And so, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, clearly there's a problem here. People don't understand that they're the police. So we have to write on paper, here, you're the police. You will follow this protocol. That's it. It's not hard. This is what you're going to do. And when you don't do it, there's consequences for not doing it too. I mean, like, this is happening all day, every day on the streets of New York City. These aren't one-off incidents anymore. This isn't just 1 or 2 different influences. There's multiple influences walking around New York City, creating this type of content. And what are they ultimately showing? They're showing how emasculated the NYPD is, how ineffective of a police force they are, and that they really don't have the ability to keep the public safe at this point because they can't even keep themselves safe. It's either they don't know the law or they're unwilling to do it, but something has to be done to push them to do it. Something has to be done because that scenario was disgusting. I'm sorry. I think all the scenarios were disgusting because I don't think any of those scenarios happened 10 years ago. I just don't. Pre-de Blasio, those scenarios do not happen. I'm sorry. They just don't. They just don't.
Well, that part I agree. I always say, I think de Blasio came in January 2014, right? And I think 2018 is really the pinnacle moment when CCRB started to get their teeth. I mean, you can see the complete change in the response of CCRB up to 2018, and anything after 2018, there's a complete dichotomy there. And then also we have the inception, January 2021, of the disciplinary matrix. However, even with that being said, the cops still have a duty to do their job. That's why I'm saying, if you're going to take this job and take this oath and wear this uniform, you have to understand that you are facing that byproduct. But at the same token, you have to do your job, and you have to be willing to get civilian complaints and understand that, yes, you may be put in precarious situations that actually hinder your career. But unfortunately, you've made that decision to wear that uniform. Now, again, I said the weakest link is the leadership. But clearly, to me, also, not only is it the weakest link, the leadership is not doing their job. Maybe if one police plaza wasn't run like a brothel and a harem, and if they were actually watching these videos and cared, the leadership would say, we have a problem. This is not happening once every couple of months. This is not happening as an anomaly. This is a phenomenon that's happened on a daily basis with the cops. So if the leadership of the NYPD actually cared about the cops and cared about the public, they would address the situation, say, we need training. That's all. It's a complete wheel of issues here. We need training. We need to make sure that our cops have met the standards. And most importantly, we need to make sure that they are supported. Because with the best training and with being vetted and meeting standards, without support, you're still missing a link. We need all these links to be effective. And they don't have any support. And until we get support, this is never going to end. They have to get support, and they need a blanket of protection from this overzealous civilian complaint review board that is out of their mind. They need protection from a city council that is looking for new legislation on a daily basis to strip away from them. They need protection from a foaming, mouthing DA's office, 5-borough wide. But more importantly, the leadership needs to just openly and publicly say that no matter what happens with these external factors and these pressures, we have your back. It needs to be said. It needs to be said publicly. But more important than just said, the leadership has to actually do it. I feel sorry for these cops. I watch these videos, and every one of us, that's why we're engaged right now. We care. We're boiling because we want to help these cops. We have experience. We want to tell these cops, don't ever allow this to happen to you again. Because every time you allow this to happen to you, it's happened to every member of the 30,000 police officers that are there, or 25, whatever the case is. So it hurts watching this. Now, I would have taken action on every video, and I'm not saying it just to say it. I have a record that shows I would. But ultimately, the byproduct is civilian complaints, civil liability. I know how to pay out of my own pocket. No support from the union. Cowardice commanders that say, can't you just walk away? And unfortunately, that's what these cops are facing, and it's getting worse and worse. So I feel sorry for them because they don't have any veteran cops to tell them, fuck that weak commander that told you that. Here's what you have to do to support the cops that, walk in the boots after you, that have to stand in the same post. They don't have that veteran apparatus to help them. These cops are in a situation where they did not meet the standards. Most of them are meek and timid and docile. They have no support. Now, you would think even with all those factors, just because New York City is so voluminous, that they would just learn by osmosis. But you see, no matter what, osmosis is not kicking in because there's no leadership, there's no support. Without support from leadership within, this is going to fail time and time again. You could have the best uniform, you could have the best training, but until we have the right leadership and support, this will not end.
Eric, you're so angry. You keep banging on the table and it mutes you.
Usually I'm not angry.
All you hear is...
But with stuff like this, it gets me angry because I know what the cops should do. I know what I would tell them to do. I know what I would do. And I know the outcome would be 56 substantiated complaints. But you know what? At least you have all your fingers and you have all your toes and you have your own dignity. I can lay down at night and I can look at the ceiling and know that I protected my cops, I protected the community, I protected myself.
Yeah, we had other topics to cover today, and I don't think we'll get to them because I think this issue is such a big issue, and it cuts to the heart of all the problems in the police department that I think it deserves like an entire show of its own to talk about, because every problem that exists in a PD is exemplified in those videos. Okay, and I'm gonna also say that it's not just the NYPD, but the problems in the Western world right now are in those videos. You see because the lack of masculinity is a byproduct of globalism. Okay, it's because globalism is just modern feudalism. Okay, and the last thing these elites want is young men, is that rugged individualism, is that masculinity, that they want, is that they don't want young men thinking that they can change society, and they can be active and engaged. They want people who are docile and who who need to be told everything. And I mean, look in that video too. If your sergeant is busy on the radio or whatever on the phone, then you pick up the radio and you ask for additional help. You don't need the boss to do it all. Instead, everyone's standing around with their hand in their pocket, waiting for somebody else to make a decision. No, you're a cop. This is the, again, we talked about it a couple days ago. Okay, there's no agency on the bottom. The job has conditioned everybody to wait for somebody at the top to tell them what to do, and you see it when these guys come up to their face. Okay, it's like they don't know what to do. What do I do? I can't wait around for the boss to tell me to make a decision. So this problem is just wider than the police department. It's the entire West. They've conditioned everybody to be docile and for masculinity to be gone, because they don't want you being angry and pushing back against all the things that are happening right now in society. So until we get to a point where there's an appreciation of human beings again, and I'm specifically alluding to the end of globalism, right? We're not going to get to the return of masculine men here in America and the West again. And I don't. This episode is going to be falling on deaf ears in 1PP.
Yeah, and Visa, I don't even know what it is. He says, bro, you have no CCRBs on your 58. Guys like us with over 50 CCRBs know the consequences. So let's get something straight here. I did 14 years in the street. I affected, as a police officer, in a very short time, over 145 arrests. The overwhelming majority, like 90% of them, were pickup arrests. So don't tell me I don't know how to make arrests. I've actually had to testify at CCRB several times. Why they don't appear, I don't know, and I don't care. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't make you a good cop or a bad cop, whether you have CCRBs or not. It's how have you engaged? How have you done your job as a police officer, right? I did my time prior to all of this insanity, all right? By 2018, I was inside. I wasn't out on the street when all of this insane legislation hit. But this is the environment. I wouldn't have changed who I am. I'm not going to change because of CCRB, because I wasn't never changed because of them originally. I wouldn't do the day I said that I can't do the things that I do on the street, that's the day I'm not going to go out in the street, because I'm going to get killed. It's that simple. Like, it's a very dangerous game out there. I don't care what precinct you work in, what command you work in. If you're out there, you're a competent person, you're a conscientious person, and you do your job today, everybody should have a record that looks like Eric Dim today, because it's impossible to avoid today. This is what they've created in this society. This is what they've created in the NYPD. This is it. This is what it is now. This is going forward. You're all going to be tri-recidivists. You're all going to be CCRB recidivists, because it's impossible for you not to be documented. The only way for you not to get a CCRB is for you really not to care, for it not to affect you, is for you not to care. It's for you to know your law so good and the job so good that it doesn't matter, because I didn't do anything wrong. You're not getting me on anything. And when they do, it is what it is. It is what it is. You have to deal. These are the consequences of being a police officer. And if you're not, then I don't know, dude. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? You're going to just walk away? You're going to walk away with your head down? What are you going to do? How are you going to be a cop? Why should anybody pay you? Why should my tax dollars go to you? Because you're afraid of getting a CCRB. Why? Why do we have police? If anyone could just come up and abuse you, what do we have the police for? So I get it. I get it. You guys are in a totally different time. You're under a totally different level of scrutiny, and it's completely unfair. But if this is how you're going to act, quit. Quit your job, because you obviously don't want to be cops, because you're going to get 50 CCRBs. keeping your head down like a sucker and doing all that shit anyway, and then you got to deal with it, and then the city looks like a mess as a result of it. Because yeah, it's so safe that you can't even tie your shoes in Times Square. It's so safe without getting stabbed in the back. It's so safe that you can't even change your baby without getting stabbed in the back. It's so safe that you can't take the train without getting sucker punched. It's so safe that the cops are afraid to do a damn thing. They stand there, like 50 of them, like a bunch of cucks that are afraid to do their job because they're so afraid of John Darsh and the CCRB, and they're so afraid to go down to CCRB and explain to them how to do their job, or to IAB how the job gets done. It is what it is. If the job's that foregone, if it's gone, that's it. Leave.
There's two things I want to address here. So first thing, Cop Watch has been very engaged. Cop Watch Brooklyn very engaged in this show, which I say thank you and I appreciate it. Right, that's the whole point. We should have healthy debate and healthy conversation. Opposition meets opportunity. Now, Cop Watch Patrol Brooklyn said, "You guys just want to hurt someone. Why don't you just talk to the guy?" Now, sometimes there is a time for a conversation, but when you're in a situation when you have someone in handcuffs, it's not a time to have a conversation. You need all eyes in and around you. That person of interest should be placed in handcuffs, and then we can have a conversation. Exactly. We can talk afterwards at the precinct in a controlled environment and talk about how being a social media influencer, taunting cops, is not coming to any resolve. We can have that conversation at the precinct, but we're not having that conversation in the street when we already have a person of interest in handcuffs, and the situation needs to be taken care of, and we need to make sure that everyone's safe. So, while I don't agree with that, having a conversation in the street, you have to understand that police officers have firearms. They're bringing a gun to every incident. So that's a dangerous situation. We need to get back to the precinct in a controlled environment. Now, the second thing, I think John brought up a great point, by the way, now. If every cop in the street was willing to stand up to the Civilian Complaint Review Board and pepper their records, if we had every cop responding like I did, and Marlon and John and many of the great cops out there, and many of our retired guys here in this chat, and everyone got their records peppered up with 50 and 60 civilian complaints, then the leadership would have to step up and say, wait a minute, we have a problem. No one's promotable, right? I couldn't get promoted to captain. No one's promotable, so we can't make anyone a sergeant. We can't make anyone a lieutenant. No one in the police department can get promoted. We can't put anyone in any units because everyone has CCRBs. So if everyone had an excessive CCRB record, the police department would be forced to take action. So that part I agree. Now, I made the conscious decision that I didn't care. I was willing to have my record peppered up to protect my cops, protect myself, protect the streets, and protect my family. I wanted to go home to my family. Also, I didn't want to embarrass the police department. I would never allow someone to say they're going to spit in my face and advance towards them and walk away. I would never allow someone to taunt me in the precinct and not have my cops have situational awareness and take action. And when I say take action, that doesn't mean striking someone, but that means causing a problem. And the problem is the cops are being taunted, cause that problem. Sometimes it's placing them in handcuffs. Sometimes it's moving them. But you have to address it and cause the problem. So if we have everyone get their records peppered up, the police department would have to do something. But we need unity. We need everyone to stand together. And that's something that's always been pretty much impossible when it comes to the police department, is having that unity. In order to have that unity, we need the cops on board with the unions. And the unions would have to be on board. It's a daunting task, but it can be done.
Yeah, you know, I said before that the influencer economy is like $500 million. So this is something that's not going away. You know, if you're a perp who you just got out of doing a bid, you have no life skills. You know, what's the easiest? One of the easiest way to maybe get a couple dollars in your pocket? Well, it's to pick up your cell phone and start recording stuff. You know, and some of that may include being rage bait content. You know, unfortunately, the more brainless your content is online, the more views you're gonna have. Okay, so this is an issue that isn't going away. So also, right, the department tells these guys that you can't talk to the media. So I think, believe it or not, that that's one of the issues that kind of creates that indecision that a lot of these cops have. You can't speak to the media. Problem is, nowadays everybody's the media with a camera, because everyone has the ability to post content online and to, generate views and to go viral on the internet. So everybody's the media now. So with that said, what I'm saying is if like Cop Watch seems to believe that you have the inherent right to come up to me in my face aggressively and start recording. And that's not the case, buddy. Okay. You can record me all day, but you can't do it in my face. Okay. And maybe if you weren't as aggressive, okay, cops would be willing to talk to you, okay? Because me, now the thing is, a lot of these rookies, they just got there, so they don't understand, they don't get a feel of the job yet, and a feel of and they're not necessarily confident in themselves either. But me as a senior cop, you're either a threat or you're not. And if you're not, I may placate you with a couple of questions. But the minute you start acting aggressively towards me, I don't have the right to answer you anymore because you're being aggressive to me and I have weapons on me. Okay, so you better get back. You don't you don't have the right to come up to me in my face and with a camera. Okay, you can do it from you gotta back off, and there has to be distance between us. Okay, so this is an issue that's gonna keep coming up because, like I said, with so much money flowing through the influence economy, more people are gonna do this, especially as more people lose their jobs. And I said before, it's gonna get worse. Okay, we haven't crossed we haven't crossed over into things going on the upswing yet. We're still going downhill. Okay, so with that said, this is an issue that if you're a young guy right now, you better start preparing for this. You better know your law. You better look sharp in that uniform and look like you're ready for business, so that less perps are willing to come up to your face aggressively because they feel they're going to be intimidated by you, and they know you're going to get down to business and not just be indecisive or docile there.
Mikey G says CCRB's in control. They fired you, Eric. Mikey G, yes, CCRB does have a lot of power. They do have a lot of teeth. However, I was not fired. I was not terminated. Just to set the record straight, I had 8 sets of charges in 6 weeks. 2 cases I beat, and I never had an opportunity to take the rest of them to administrative trial. I was told to take 2 to 3 more years. I was offered intelligence. I was offered the detective squad, but I made the decision to retire. I knew I could no longer do what I was paid and trained to do, what I wanted to do. I wanted to be out in the streets in plain clothes, support my cops. My cops supported me, and getting illegal firearms off the street, getting the most violent perpetrators in the South Bronx. So I made the decision to retire, and we started the podcast, and it was the best decision I made, actually. So I could no longer do what I was paid and trained to do, but I was not terminated. I retired with in good standing, and it's the best decision I made. With that being said, back to what I was saying earlier, I do believe that if all the cops did their job appropriately to stand there and actually address these situations, I think that everyone's career would get peppered up, and then the police department is in a really tough situation. Mikey G said, sorry about the misinformation. I don't mind at all. I'm just saying, I think that we have to understand that we have to fight back. I don't want anyone's career getting peppered up to the point that they can't get promoted. Their careers are halted. I just think that if everyone, though, was willing to say, you know what, we band together and every one of us is going to take action, and if it means every one of us gets a tainted career, then we're all not promotable. So I think that would be the opportunity to fight back in that position, because other than that, otherwise we have a mix of outliers where some cops like myself and many here that are in the chat are willing to take action. So, John, while you were gone, I just wanted to let you just to say I want to know what you think about this. I think you brought up a great point, and I piggybacked on it by saying that if every cop acted appropriately and took action, if every cop was willing to become the most complained cop and have 56 substantiated complaints like myself, then the leadership would have to take action. Say, wait a minute, we got a problem, because I wasn't promotable. No one would be promotable. No one would be able to be transferred to go to the squad. They would have to take action. If every cop was willing to take action, get their records peppered up, they would have to do something. What are your thoughts? I'm kind of picking back on what you said. I think that we might be onto something here.
Well, I just don't think there's any way for you not to get your record peppered up, other than you being a complete coward cuck. I don't but like, there's no way that you could effectively do your job today without being a tri-recidivist, without being a CCRB recidivist. It's impossible. It's literally impossible with the amount of cameras and the amount of engagement and the fact that CCRB generates their own complaints now and they take third-party complaints from people that weren't even involved in the situation. It's the only way for you not to get your record peppered up is because you're not involved in proactive police work and you're not effectively doing your job on patrol. Because even if you're just a basic regular patrol officer, you're going to be a tri-recidivist. You're going to be, and for those of you that don't know, that means it's a threat resistance injury report that has to be done every time you put your hands on a suspect. Most cops put their hands on people all day, every day. So, I mean, I don't understand how do you go to an EDP job? How do you go to a violent domestic incident? How do you arrest someone who doesn't want to be arrested and not have all these CCRBs and these tries? So, my thing is that this is the reality of police work today. Is like your record is going to be insane, and that's why I think it's so important that not only do you become effective, but that at some point this stuff comes off your record. Because in New York State, you could rob somebody and that comes off your record. But if I wore white socks in the police department, that doesn't come off my record. If somebody I arrested complained and said that I used unreasonable force, or I said if I cursed at them, that never comes off my record ever in my entire life. I'm not even talking about just not at police work. I'm talking about after I retire, I'm dead. Like, never comes off your record. That'll be on there forever. This is what's been created. This is what's been allowed to be created by your completely ineffective unions who have done absolutely nothing for you other than fund the people that have created the situation for you, right? Other than their own build personal relationships with these people for their own personal gain. That's the situation that you're in now. This is what policing in. If there was leadership today, they wouldn't be looking at who has a high CCRBs. They wouldn't be looking at who has a high tri patterns, and they wouldn't be trying to penalize people based on that. They would be looking to see if there's patterns. Oh, is it a pattern that every time Eric Dim gets a CCRB, the person says that he says this? Then that's a problem. Then Eric Dim's doing something fucked up, and that needs to be addressed. If there's a problem that every time there's a complaint, the person says this. If there's a problem with all these tri reports, then there's a problem. It's not the number that should be concerning. There should be a bunch of concerns now. Today, there should be a concern when you have a lack of arrests and you have a lack of CCRBs and you have a lack of tri-ports. Are you an effective police officer? How are you getting a 5 if you're actually out there doing your job? You can't. Now, for those of you in long-term investigative assignments, not really fair for you either, right? You could sit there and be like, well, I did my job. Yeah, you did it pre-2018, or you did it. And now for the last 5 years, you've been doing long-term investigative assignments. You're less likely to get CCRBs. You're less likely to get CCRBs when you're in, depending on which ESU unit you're in, right? If you're going out and you're always the guy, you're on the A team and you're always going the guy taking the door, you're always getting a CCRB. You're always getting a force report, right? So like, it's not fair at this point to sit here and say that, like, there should be, based upon your role in the New York City Police Department, that we should already know what the number is of what's expected from you to have as far as CCRBs and tri reports are concerned, to show that you are an actually effective police officer. Because again, you're self-generating these complaints. This is what no one understands today. The difference between when I was a cop and now today is this. When I was out there doing police work, if I arrested someone, if I scuffled with them and they were uninjured, what was that? Nothing. Today, you scuffle someone, they're uninjured, you still do a tri report. What happens with that tri report? Immediate notification to IAB. IAB sends it to CCRB. You have a CCRB. That's the difference. You're self-generating your own record, right? And this is the system that's been created. And it has to be, all right, this is the cost of doing this business. This is what police work is now. You can't go backwards on it. Nobody's pulling this legislation down. But how are we operating in the system that is law enforcement right now. So yeah, I don't think people should go out there and try to get CCRBs, but you doing your job is going to lead to you having 50, 60 CCRBs. It's that simple. That's what it is right now. And until people understand that reality, I mean, I just think you're going to see more of this insanity where cops are just out there getting completely abused, afraid to do their job, afraid to act. And it's like, well, I don't want to get a CCRB. You're getting them anyway. You have no choice. You're a cop. You signed up for this. When you effect an arrest and someone resists arrest, you're getting a CCRB. You're getting an IAB complaint. That's it. It's that simple. Like this isn't maybe I'll get it. Maybe I could hide my shield and they won't see me. Maybe I'll just be really, really nice to them. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Oh, I won't arrest them. I'll just let them abuse me and I'll walk off my post that I'm assigned to. No. No, you're getting a CCRB. Deal with it. Deal with it. And if you can't,
you just brought up a very important issue, and that's what I've been alluding to. You don't have to try to get civilian complaints if you're out. That's my point. You know, I've been branded as the most complaint cop. In my opinion, in this environment, especially post 2018, and especially right now, if you're out there doing your job as you should be paid and trained to do, I think it's almost impossible that you're not getting a substantial amount of complaints, because just the voluminous of working in New York City and being actively engaged, especially, as you said, if you're making arrest, as the department expects you to make, if you're making arrest in this environment and you're actually answering 911 calls on patrol and you're actively engaged, which means you're constantly touching people. That doesn't mean you're actually striking people or having wrestling confrontations or grappling situations. But if you're actively engaged, you're going to be touching people. You're going to be arresting people. You're going to generate complaints, especially in this environment, since the CCRB can self-generate complaints. You're self-generating them by actually documenting a threat resistant injury report. So to me, it's an indication if you're not getting civilian complaints in this environment, clearly you're not doing your job. You're in a situation, you're either avoiding it or you're working somewhere that you're not engaging with people. Because if you're active, if you're a proactive cop there right now, you're doing intrusive police work, you are getting substantiated civilian complaints, or at least you're getting allegations, unless you are the lucky few in khaki pants that had a blanket of protection. And that blanket of protection is gone right now. But other than that, if you're out there doing intrusive police work, means you're actually engaging people according to people versus the board on different levels, then you are getting civilian complaints on your record. There's no doubt about it. Question here earlier by Housing for Life. Just want to address that. Housing for Life asks, what's the worst project in PSA 7? I would say, I mean, every week that changes depending on what's going on. But I would say ultimately, I think the worst one was Morrisania and the corner of 169 and Washington. Anyone that knows PSA 7 knows the area. 169 and Wash is what they used to call it. In the summer, any given time, you could have 200 to 300 people out on that corner. 169 and Wash. So Housing for Life, if you're listening, thank you for the question, brother.
Yeah, I saw a comment there from Team Model Productions. Listen, he says y'all have all the tools to protect yourself. A camera has never sent anyone to the hospital. You have the training to keep your distance. Come on with this aggressive crap. Yeah, we have lots of tools, you know, at our disposal, right? Those include your command presence, your voice, and guess what? The handcuffs. Okay, so if you don't, again, when we support your right, we're all civilians now. Okay, I support your right to go and record police. Do it, but don't do it in their face. Okay, that's different. Okay, that's the problem here. And the minute you run up to the cop aggressively and want to put the camera in their face and try to rage bait them, you've crossed the line. Okay, and we're not. I think some of you, some of the liberal watchers here, like Cop Watch and all that, you know we're pretty fair in this podcast. We criticize the police department all the time, okay? But you need to understand here that this is one line that we're not going to, we're not going to agree with. You have to be a cop. These guys have to be cops, okay? You can't. you know, you can't get in their face and start recording them. You can't go into their personal space because they have tools on them that could be used against them. You have tools on them that are you know, that are deadly weapons, like the firearm. Okay. So if a cop isn't comfortable with you getting that in their face, you know, and he tells you to move back, then and you don't do it, you deserve to be in cuffs, you know, and brought back to the precinct. Well, what else was I gonna say? You know, I kind of lost my train of thought on that one, but listen, Eric brought up a point that if every cop, you know, if every cop kind of peppered their record, then the job will respond. I don't think that'll ever happen, because the problem is we have a lot of cops on the job who are there just for the paycheck now and aren't there because they're passionate about being a cop, you know? And there's a difference between the guy who wants to be a cop and wants to be the best cop he can be, and the guy who you know, he took the job because in 5 or 6 years he'll be making 100K, or he can take the test and go up and be a chief and be making 250K. And unfortunately, you know, when you look at the promotions and you see who's the leadership now, it's the guy who came for the paycheck, because when you look at their record, they did nothing as cops.
No, I mean, it's insane, dude. It's insane to me that there's people that have 5 arrests in the detectives. I'm sorry. It's insane to me that there's people with 10 arrests that are chiefs. I'm sorry. Like, you need to understand how to do this job first. Like, you shouldn't have 20 arrests and be a detective or be going into an investigative track. I'm sorry. You should literally need to understand the nuances of being a cop. You're not going to get that until you do repetitive action. That's it. 145 to my name, but how many was I involved in those 6 years? A lot. A damn, like, probably 7 times the amount of that. And then when I'm a sergeant, that's multiplying like month by month. I mean, I'm verifying arrest, and then proactively going out there and arresting them. I'm just not processing them anymore. So like that, it's repetition, and you're gonna get better at your job, you know. And like the thing is, like, we've really lost the way. We've really lost our way. The Kawasaki kid, you're distracting me from my job. Stop, or you're going to be arrested. If he continues, he gets arrested. I mean, it's really that simple. That's what we're saying here. Here's another one in transit. And to this, like, this one's a little bit more tricky, I think, than the other ones. But it's still you're on MTA property. You know, he's not a safe distance away, and he's literally harassing the sergeant, and the cops are there. And to me, I don't know. This would have never happened to one of my sergeants. This would have never happened to anyone that worked with me, because I'm not letting this happen to us. I'm just not. Like, this is not free speech. This is harassment of a police officer, clear as day. Here's another example.
I got something better for you to do, though. Suck my dick. Yeah, that's what she could do, though. I know they all dirty. We gonna check their record and all of that. You heard? And we gonna find out later if she's willing to do that.
Can you back up?
I don't need to. I'm not gonna back up. You gonna have to cuff me to back up. So you about to make an unlawful arrest? I don't need to back up. I'm on public evening. Yeah. I wish they will make me back up.
I mean, the rest of it is that. But right then and there, that's it. They get abused. They have their hands in their pockets. They put their head down. As soon as he said, I'm not backing up, you're going to have to arrest me. I'm warning you one more time. No? Okay. You're under arrest. Refusal to comply with a lawful order. What happened, officer, when you go down to the DA's office? I explained to the individual that he was in my personal space, that he was in my personal space. I did not feel safe. I asked him to back up. He refused the order. I placed him in handcuffs. It's that simple. I don't really give a shit what the DA does. I don't care. If he calms down later, he can get a summons back at the station house for disorderly conduct and be on his way, and you don't have to process the rest. Does it matter? No, it doesn't, because all those things are getting thrown out. Some ambulance chaser attorney's going to get that case. He's going to sue. The corporation counsel in New York City is going to settle the case. He's going to make money. What is that your concern? When was that ever different? I never experienced it. That's been the case ever since I remember. Ever since anyone I know that was a cop. That's always been the case. Minor arrests, they traditionally tend not to prosecute. C summonses, you could write the best C summons in the world. Judge is busy that day. He's going to bring everyone in and be like, yeah, you're all dismissed. How do I know? Because it happened to me when I was a kid. So, I've been in that courtroom where the judge is like, all right, everyone here, you guys are all dismissed. Drinking summonses, whatever else it is. It's like this isn't hard. He told you, I want to be arrested. He should have been obliged.
Now, this is where I totally agree with Marlon in the sense that your presence is the first sense of action, right? That's why we joke around here. We used to have, what was it, Crazy 10-7? I think it's Crazy 10-7 or Crow Eater. I think it's Crazy 10-7. When I used to say that I'm a firm believer. I support the Second Amendment. I have firearms myself, but I support concealed carry, right? I see a lot of guys traveling and they have their guns exposed. But to me, when you have your gun exposed, you're showing a presence, right? It's sort of like I'm ready for action. And for a cop, that's where you need to have that presence and let people know you're ready for action. So that right now, I think their presence is not fierce enough that deters anyone from getting in their personal space. For one, you can see they're kind of standing meek. They're not postured up. They're not standing upright. Their hands are in their pockets. They're looking away. They should, in my belief, not Michael Kemper, but they should look at that adversary with their hands out, and they should have their hands up, indexing at the ready, interview stand, saying, listen, you want to have your freedom of speech? Go over there. Don't stay in our space. Get back. Give some directions. And your hands are part of that presence. Take your hands out. Raise them above their hands. That sends a psychological message that you're ready and prepared. But them standing there, kind of lowering their heads, lowering their posture, keeping their hands in the pockets, allows that adversary to feel comfortable to enter their space. And I agree with you, John. That's where they should say, all right, listen, we gave you an order. Step back. Next time, you're going to be in handcuffs. And I can tell you this, that would have been another substantiated complaint, but I don't care. If it was me, I would have taken those complaints. Why? And I know I've gotten that complaint. You'll get the complaint. You ready for it? Abuse of authority, because you threatened to arrest that person. Even though it's a warning, CCRB will give you a substantiated complaint, which I've gotten for telling people, hey, listen, if you make another move, you're going to be placed in handcuffs. It's going to be an arrest. And I was given substantiated complaints for abuse of authority for threatening to arrest, which is a warning. That's another failure on the leadership of the NYPD, not just in this administration, but with their predecessors for not taking action against the CCRB for using that catch-all of abuse of authority. But even with that being said, I would have taken action. You have to have presence, posture up, and use your hands. Hey, listen, this is our space. Right? It's important. When you talk with your hands, you're creating that basketball that I often talk about that needs to surround you to let people know this is my space. This is our space. Get back. And it's not about being big, and it doesn't even require some heavy martial arts training. It just requires situational awareness, some understanding of what your space is, how to show that, not just by talking with your mouth, but using your body as showing that presence. So another failure, but it's the failure on the trains, the failure on the department. And when I say the department, the leadership. Leadership. We're watching these videos and dissecting them. Why isn't the leadership doing it? Well, we know why the leadership's not doing it, because they're too busy on social media trying to attack this podcast, this network, from our First Amendment speech. They're too busy having a brothel at one police plaza. They're too busy trying to figure out where the next overtime comes from. So they're not concerned with the cops and the sergeant. That's absolutely disgusting. And you're right. Someone said earlier, I think, John, you said it. Someone said we wouldn't talk like that to a barista. Could you imagine that a patron was telling a female barista to suck my DICK? The police would be called and there would be a response. But it's okay that we speak to our female police officers, our female law enforcement officers that way. Why is is their moral principle, is their life not as important? It's absolutely disgusting that if you wear one, it seems like once you wear the uniform, you're not a person anymore. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I see somebody in the chat said that cop looks like me. He kind of does, but I never wore my glasses on patrol. You know, if I did, it's because I ran out of contacts. I never wore the glasses on patrol because it's a liability. You know, my glasses get knocked off, and I can't see nothing. So those of you guys wearing glasses on patrol, I gotta say you really should get contacts, okay? And also carrying your memo book or whatever in the side pocket. I talked about being able to run and being able to be nimble and you know, that's get rid of those stupid pants, please. And don't put anything in those side pockets, please. But I think it's a problem when you tell a perp something and he says, yeah, whatever, and he continues doing it and you don't do anything about it. You look weak, okay? And you just embolden the perp to continue doing that to cops, okay? So if you give him a warning, okay, give him a second one. But if he's not doing it, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to take action here. And also, I'm gonna put the impetus on. I have so much issues with this one. First of all, they should be standing with their backs against the wall, okay? Because I don't know what's approaching up those stairs behind me. Okay, so they should have their back to the wall. Second of all, the cops should take action. I don't need a sergeant to you know, Sarge, go in the back there. We got us. All right. And I don't understand. Maybe the job is maybe transit is telling these guys, listen, you're on a detail, you're not taking any bodies, okay? Because I don't understand. The sergeant gave you a warning already. You're continuing to do it, and I'm not throwing you in cuffs. I don't understand. I'm putting you in cuffs, and I'm getting 2 hours off of you, okay? You're an easy one right here, okay? Even if you're getting a summons, I'm getting some overtime off of you, okay? So I don't understand that to begin with, okay? Why the cops are just standing around there like you need the boss to tell you to put cuffs on this guy. What's the problem here? You know, you gave him an order, he disregarded it, and he's continuing to do it. Put him in cuffs.
Somebody asked, they said, what would happen if off-duty cops went around and filmed Cop Watch and these other losers like that? Let me tell you what happened. They would immediately call 911. It would generate an IAB complaint. You would be immediately suspended, removed of your gun and shield, and you would later be arrested. That's what would happen to you, because what they're doing is a crime. Because no human should have to deal with that. Now this is America. You could say whatever you want. You could say you want whatever you want to the female, however disgusting it is. It's disgusting, but you could do it from a safe distance away. And you could do it while following lawful orders from the police. And you could do it without being disorderly and causing crowds to form and acting violent and tumultuous. You could do that. That's illegal. If you want to just stand 30 feet away, 20 feet away and say, suck my whatever, that's on you. If you want to look like a dirtbag, if that's the kind of man you want to be, go right ahead. It's your right as an American to do it. But once you cross that threshold of violating the law, you're acting violent and tumultuous. You're being loud and disorderly, causing crowds around. Now you violated the law. You're refusing to obey a lawful order. No, I'll stand here. I'm not backing up. Okay, that's over. Like that, you know. So I don't. Again, I don't think this is hard. I think all of this stuff could be easily corrected. I personally believe, because there is no leadership and because those experienced cops are no longer there, and because this has been the ingrained response, stand like you're unready to fight, put your hands in your pocket, keep your head down, don't look them in the eye, right? This is what the response is. Don't be a man. Act like a complete cock. Pretend like your handcuffs have rust on them and you don't know how to use them. Pretend that you don't know the law. And so it looks like some of you don't know the law. I mean, this is the ingrained response from everyone. So it has to be broken. How are you going to break it? Again, I think there needs to be a set of guidance. And I think that guidance not only comes out to where they have to go on a video and they have to click and they have to watch it, but there needs to be training. When you're in the academy, we used to do scenarios. I don't know if you guys still do them, but they would have actors They would have actors and pretend to be EDPs. Why is there no scenarios like this happening? Why are we not concerned? This is a crucial issue. This is what's First Amendment and what's not, right? And what's our job? To uphold the Constitution, right? Uphold the Constitution of the United States of America. Before God, we swear that oath. I am going to willing to lay down my life to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America. But yet it seems most of you don't understand it. You think First Amendment speech is harassment. You think First Amendment speech has someone right in your face acting violent and tumultuous right by you. You think that they could do whatever they want to you, and they can't. You could say whatever you want. This is America. You could protest whatever you want, but you can't take over roadways. You can't take over bridges. You can't stop me from walking. You can't stop me from driving. The problem is they don't know the law. They don't know what's happening. Nobody knows it. Nobody understands it. This starts in the academy. You first issue guidance. You put it out to your recruits. You have that scenario run. You have influencers come in and start to abuse them and what they're going to do. How do you do it? It's very simple. We have the videos. We're playing for them. Put them in that same scenario. And then have legal on standby. All right, no, you can't do that there. You could do that there. You can't do this here, right? And teach that and ingrain this, that this isn't okay. Again, if we allow this, how do you feel safe on the street? How does that mother walking with her kids feel safe? How does that elderly person feel safe? How do disabled people feel safe? How do people that operate businesses in New York City think that this is a competent society and we have a police department that we pay fucking billions of dollars for and they look like a bunch of retards? Excuse me. Sorry to use the word, but that's what it looks like. You look like you're all scared. You're all timid. You're all afraid, and you don't know what the fuck you're doing. And for all you big 3-star chiefs, this is you, bro. This is your legacy, not theirs. This is John Shell's legacy. This is Kaz Daughtry's legacy. This is Eric Adams' legacy. This is Bill de Blasio, Terrence Monahan, Dermot Shea, Jimmy O'Neill, all down the line. Jessica Tisch, everybody. This is your legacy. This is the department under you. This is what it looks like under you. And it's clear as day, none of yous give a shit. The unions are too busy with that stupid truck. Cops, make cops the highest paid in the world. This is not why cops are leaving. Everyone knows it. Save your fucking money and start to advocate for the things that matter. First, learn what's going on with your people, and then maybe care a little bit. And if you don't, walk away with your pension because you got a big enough anyway that you probably didn't fucking deserve the last 20 years anyway.
Well, I can tell you right now what would be the response to Cop Watch. If there was counter surveillance, Cop Watch is surveilling the NYPD right now. If there was counter surveillance, they would be calling 911 and they would be asking for charges of stalking because Cop Watch is stalking the police department. How do I know? Because anytime we had an encounter with Cop Watch, whether it was an arrest, a summons, or just a conversation, there were some Cop Watch guys at the precinct making complaints. Even Cop Watch Brooklyn here admits that the Cop Watch Bronx was behind all my CCRBs. We know that. We know there's a connection to Cop Watch Bronx to CCRB. Now, the NYPD leadership and the unions never tried to make that connection and never tried to care to dive into it. I get it. Cop Watch is the opposition, and the NYPD never supported me. I get it. And 9 Inch Nails, which we know who that is, says, are Cop Watch public servants? No, they're not public servants, but we know damn well that if there was counter surveillance, if there were freedom of expression, watching Cop Watch, they would be making complaints of stalking. I'm not even saying even have an approach or interacting, but they would make complaints of stalking. There's no doubt about it because they were always in the precinct. They were there at community meetings complaining. So the bottom line is the cops are in a very precarious position right now where they're out there with no leadership, no support, but they're in a position where they have to dig themselves out of this sinkhole. So I think at this point, and that's why I said, if you wear this uniform, you made that decision to be a cop out there with a gun, you have to do your job. You have no choice. You have to understand that most likely, if you do your job as you're trained and paid to do, to support yourself, to support the people that are in and around you, those are the cops that work next to you, especially if you're a frontline supervisor, and to get home to your family, you will get substantiated complaints. And you have to accept that and understand that Every cop right now, and that's why I said this before, every cop, you don't have to try to get a CCRB. Every cop, if you are doing your job, you will be in line, as I am, as the most complained cop. You will have a substantial amount of complaints. You will be facing civil liability, but I promise you'll have all 10 fingers and all 10 toes, and you will be able to look up at the ceiling and say, I did my job and did it appropriately. So if the most important thing to you is getting promoted or not being able to be transferred, yeah, you're going to disengage. But unfortunately, every cop that makes that decision to disengage and not do their job as they're paid and trained to do, we end up with videos just like this. But ultimately, it's the leadership. Leadership. So my message to that jellyfish Mike LaPetri, that's now the chief of department, why don't you take a stance and show us that you are not John Shell? Show us that you're not Jeffrey Mandry, and start watching these videos and give them purpose, give them significance, give them a mission, give them support. Tell them you have their back. I want to hear it publicly that you have their back. We know that you're intelligent. We know that you know this job. You know law enforcement, but no longer can you sit back and be a coward. Stand up to them. You should have stood up to Jamani Williams, but you know what? Stand up to the cops. Stand up for them. Let them do their job by giving them some backbone. It's very simple. Tell Jonathan Dosh to take it, shove it up his ass, and let the cops do their job.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to upset his $1 billion what's the word for it? His $1 billion partner. Let's just say it, leave it at that, okay? I don't think he's going to. I don't think he has any balls to do anything.
Marlon, meal ticket?
yeah, that's a good word. I saw a comment on there from Billy Blasto. He says, I guess he's responding to what John said. And Billy Blasto has a point there. You know, think of it. The job is so nobody who you know, you have a lot of options now if you want to be a cop. Okay. And a lot of PDs, especially down south, are throwing lots of money at you to come join them. So if you're the best, if you're, let's say you're a guy who just got out of the military, you're in great shape, you always wanted to become a cop, you know, you already know what you're in for. Are you going to join the NYPD, considering the atmosphere of the anti-policing atmosphere in the city? You know, you're probably going to look down south. You're probably going to, you know, that 5K that Florida is offering is probably going to be enticing to you. So now you get an academy filled with recruits that, you know, aren't necessarily the cream of the crop here, you know, and we've already talked about how this job is lowering standards just to, you know, get warm bodies in there. So if the job all of a sudden decides to go old school, you're going to lose these guys, okay? Because again, these guys aren't you know, they don't have life experience. You know, the military guys aren't joining, and the military guys, they already acclimated with that tough culture, you know, so it would be nothing for them. But how do you know, you already have Zoomers coming in. How do you bring back old school rules when you have an academy full of Zoomers who the job is already lowered standards for? I don't know. I think they would. You get a lot less of them. Which goes back to my point that the job has to change the entire culture of the NYPD right now, and a lot of all the problems in the NYPD in order to correct behavior like what we're seeing there.
I see a bunch of stuff in the chat about trailer parks in New York City. It appears Cop Watch is completely uninformed about this because there is actually a trailer park in New York City. It's in Staten Island. It's right by the Goethals Bridge. I don't know the name of it, but it has mobile manufactured homes that you can rent there. So get to know your city before you speak for it. You know. All right, here we go. Here's the last one. Here's the last video for today before I think all of our brains explode, because this is dude, there's literally dozens upon dozens of these. These are the latest ones, right? These are from this year, like 2025, like late 2025, summer 2025 into the winter. But there's so many of these. It's insane, and there's so many different influencers, and it really bothers me the way these things are being handled. And I agree, Marlon. Listen, I'm not saying for everyone to go out there and punch people in the face. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying for you to be a professional police officer and know your job and know that handle these situations, but to handle them, because these situations are not being handled. You're being handled as a police officer, and it's disgraceful. Watching cops walk away from their post because they're afraid or they don't want to act is a problem. It's a big problem, and it just what does that tell me as a civilian? What does that tell everybody? Like, if you call 911, this is who's showing up. People that can't even defend themselves. You know? So here's the last one for today.
They got you doing this job because you couldn't do your real job, right? Detective? Detective? He's detecting the subway. Yeah. 7632. Ain't that right, Perez?
I'm just making sure.
Hold up.
Oh, that's him. That's him.
Oh, and they got the good screenshot?
That's him, my
Oh, shit.
Interesting.
We're going to have to upgrade that picture. We're going to use this one right here. We're going to upgrade that.
Oh, my God. He almost got like $1 million in lawsuits.
$1 million in lawsuits? No, how much
Is that what we doing? Is that what we doing?
Oh, my God.
Okay.
Oh, my God. Yo, you cost the city a lot of money, boy.
A lot of injuries, including, but not limited to, abusing all of their faces.
Oh, man, you beat in a woman's face? Nah, he's not going to remember his victims.
Oh, yeah, he just does it.
Yeah, why would he remember that? That's just a normal citizen, right? F that guy, right? Right, fuck him and his family, right?
So, another one. Way too close, zero engagement, not staring them at them at all. And I'm not sitting there to say, like, go have a back and forth with this guy. Go stand over there. That's it. It's not hard. Go stand over there. That's all he needed to do. Go stand over there. That's it. I'm not saying to go back and forth with these idiots at all. But you can't leave. You're on your post. You can handle them.
I think that's a great point. So we're not saying to deploy strikes and start punching and fight with everyone. If you had to fight every day physically with every single person you encountered, it'd be a short career. You'd be burnt out. That's exhausting for anyone. And I don't think we should expect our cops to do that. We don't expect ultimate fighters, trained professionals to fight every day either, right? They compete once or twice a year. They're sparring, but they're not sparring every day either. Why do we expect our cops to spar every day in the street? That's not what we're saying. But what we are saying is you have to have a presence, and you can't have this meek messaging that we see by cops. Now, I don't think this particular detective is meek. He looks like he's young, looks like he's in good shape, but there's no training and there's no apparatus in the police department how to address these issues. They have not explored this and had real conversations how to address the situation. One, I can tell you, this is my message to cops out there. You can do what you want. But I can tell you right now, this idea of standing there pretending if they don't see me, I don't see them, like a kid when you used to play hide and seek, that doesn't work. You're a police officer with a target. They know exactly who you are. They're looking at you. You have to respond. And that doesn't mean you have to respond verbally or physically, but the first response has to be, you have to let that adversary know that you're aware that they're taunting you. You have to look them in the face. And you have to stand there with a sense of presence and let them know that you're there and that you're aware. Because if you're not looking at them and you're just playing the game of meek, that's only going to embolden them even more and invite them even more to continue to do this. You have to let them know I'm aware. And then if it continues, you have to give direction, right? Just as John said, listen, you want to pull up my 50A? You want to laugh and joke? Have at it. But give me some space. Go stand over there. And then if they start to make threats, then you have to take action by placing people in handcuffs, right? There are levels to these things, right? Sometimes you ask, sometimes you tell, and sometimes you make. But this idea of just standing there and keeping your head down, you're a cop. They've already targeted you. You have to face them head on. The same thing goes for someone who's a civilian. If you're a woman, God forbid, and a man was following you home, pretending that you don't see him does not work. You need to stand, look at your adversary, and let them know that you're there. They need to see your confidence and your presence. That's a deterrent. It's the same thing for the cops. They have to see your confidence. They have to see your presence. But this idea of, whoa, if they don't see, if I pretend I don't see them, they'll just go away. No, when you're not 9 years old playing hide and seek, look at your adversary and let them know that you're there. You're a New York City police officer. Let them know that you're not just wearing that badge. You have that.
Detective.
That's all right.
Detective.
What the hell's going on?
The thing's just playing on its own.
Yeah, it's not even the video I have up. That is weird.
Mike Smith, what's up, brother? Retired man. My buddy says, Eric, imagine standing in front of 418 Jersey Street and some mope doing this. Yeah, you know that's probably one of the roughest spots in the northern part of Staten Island. You have to let people know that you're there, right? We don't mean that you just start fighting with people. That's not what we're saying. That's silly. Cop watch. If you think that's what we're saying, that's not what we're saying at all. Sometimes it is a conversation, and that conversation has to be with direction. You're a cop. You're not there to, if there's a time and place, community events to have full engagement, have full conversations. The cops are there working, even though they're not actually carrying things. But a cop standing there and canvassing and analyzing with their eyes is working. It's just a different apparatus, and people don't understand it until they did it.
Look how these two cops handle it, right? Watch this.
I don't wear a mask in the subway. What? Just define it's my destiny to you guys if I don't wear a mask.
No problem.
I'm just curious, like.
Actually, it states that as long as you can maintain 6 feet distance, you don't have to wear the mask.
But you guys don't
if you
look
want to
6 feet
step within 6 feet of me, I'll gladly put on the mask.
Okay.
So would you like to do that?
I mean, I feel like you guys are within less than 6 feet of each other.
You're the one that approched us, so would you
But I'm
like to
6
keep
feet
the
away
distance?
though. I'm 6 feet away though, sir.
Okay, now we're 6 feet away, and I don't have to wear my mask.
I mean, you should probably wear a mask during a global
You're the
pandemic.
person that calls someone, you know what I mean? When someone sells like water bottle on the streets, you're the person that calls them. That's what you are. All right, Carrie, you're like the male version of Carrie. So have a nice day.
Really, sir?
Yeah.
Hold on, what's your name?
Yeah, you know, I'm ready to say it.
Okay,
Yeah, have a nice day, man.
Thank you, you too.
Yeah, you too.
I'm
Take
the
care,
public.
Karen.
Thank you for your service, sir. Thank you for protecting us during a pandemic. If I don't wear a mask.
Thank you, Karen. I mean, but the guy knew, like, he's like, all right, I'm not going to push too far. Like, you know what I mean? They know the law. They're like, what are you talking about? They're engaged with, they're right there. They're not going back and forth with them. They're just telling them the law. That's what it is. Do you want to step within 6 feet of me? No. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't think the last example either is necessarily the same thing as the prior ones. I think those detectives look like they can handle themselves, and they look like they fit the part. But my only issue is that like Eric said, you can't just, especially with them being as close as they were, you can't ignore them. You can do that, but you tell them, okay, you're gonna have to move back. All right. But yeah. Other than that, I see no issue with what they did, and these last cops. I thought the way they handled it was pretty good too.
I don't think they handled it at all. I don't think that detective and that cop handled it at all. I think they let those guys sit right in their face, and they kept their heads standing on the ground. And I just think it's terrible. I don't think it was good at all. And to me, it doesn't look like they can handle themselves. I think because they showed clearly they can't.
Well, no. My only issue is that the guys were too close. I said you can do that, but they got to move back first. They can't do that, being so close to you. Okay. And it's like they're right there, and you're trying to ignore that. You're trying to pretend that they're not there. It doesn't work. Okay. You have to go you have to walk further down on the platform. You could record me there, and those detectives could continue doing that from that distance, but so close, it just doesn't work, Even though I personally think they don't believe those guys are a threat,
You know what's a shame by watching all this is how far we've come in the police department. Like how far we've gotten to this point. I mean, John, when you and I got on the job, and Mullen, you came on only a couple of years later. We came on an era where presence was so important. If you remember, they would always drill into our heads how important your presence was, right? To show a sense of dominance and control. And what I mean by dominance, not dominant over others, but dominant over yourself, that you control how important your body language is and how you stand and how you look at people and showing awareness And we really lose that. We lost that posture. It just shows that we lost that pride. We lost that confidence. The cops in these videos, we watch, the one common denominator that I see in every one of these videos is that the cops are not posturing anymore. They're not standing there with confidence. Their posture, their presence is lacking. And they've allowed people to enter that space with that body language. And I think that's really important, significant, something that we've all learned out of this, and the cops that are active out there right now, is that your presence is more important than you think. That your presence of how you wear your uniform, how you look at people, how you carry yourselves. I used to always say this, and I think this is very true, right? Real cops don't walk into a room. Real cops enter a room. And what I mean by that is when cops go to a meeting or they go to a party, people should know who you are by your presence because you enter that room. They should feel your aura. And it's the same thing that goes in the street. That's a huge deterrent right there, so that you don't even have to engage people. Is your presence should be an aura that people could feel it and sense it. And to me, that's another indication of why so many cops are getting robbed or attacked off duty, because they don't have that aura on duty, and they sure as hell don't have that aura off duty.
Yeah.
So here's a veteran cop. Here's another one. Watch this.
Law that all police officers have to wear a mask.
No.
Yes, okay.
Show me in the New York State penal law where it says that.
The governor signed an executive order. That's a law.
Show me a copy of that.
I'll be more than happy to pull one up. I'll also be more than happy to pull up quotes of the governor saying police officers have to wear a mask.
I'll be here all day.
Oh, bitch, get out the way.
Yeah. But that, you have to stand your ground.
That's
dude.
hilarious.
I'll be here all day. Look, that's the end of the thing. We're not saying it to belittle you. We're not showing these examples to belittle anybody. It's systemic. The problem's systemic. We've been watching it for years. Nothing's being done about it. It's not even being talked about. It's this thing that's happening, and all of you guys are like, you're all following Kemper's advice. Don't look him in the eye. Keep our heads down. I'll have my legs crossed so that you can push me over and punch me in my face. I'm like, dude, that's what you're asking for. I mean, soon enough, they're going to start kicking your ass off duty. They're going to wait for you to come out of the precinct. They're going to beat the shit out of you. And guess what the guys in the precinct are going to do? They're going to stand there with their hands in their pocket with their legs crossed. I don't know what to do. I mean, it's ridiculous. You're allowing these people to interfere with you while you're making an arrest. You're allowing them to harass you, belittle you, really totally take you out of your profession and what you do for a living. And it's wrong, and there's illegal actions happening, and multiple people are making money based upon doing that. And it's an issue that's a long time should have been addressed. This should be training in the academy based off of policy that's set in place on how to deal with these encounters. Obviously, the people on the street aren't capable of dealing with these encounters themselves. The leadership isn't. So again, if you guys need help, we also do consulting. www.thefinestsunfiltered.com. It'll be within the law and how people could actually do this, because this is an absolute joke that this is being allowed to happen, and no one's talking about it. Not the police commissioner, not the mayor, and certainly not the people who claim to represent you, which is the police unions.
Just to even show further the failure of the NYPD leadership, I see all the talks here about trailer parks and RV parks. Obviously, they're directed towards me. You'd be surprised. Some of these RV parks are like being on vacation in Mexico. So it's like RV parks and trailer parks. It's like neighborhoods. You could go to some that are, that are like ghetto neighborhoods, and you can go to some that are fabulous and they have, amazing amenities. But I love it. I love it. Anyway, with that being said, I've been all over the country. I've been to big cities and small towns. And I can tell you this, there are some small towns in this country that I've been to where they get so much support from the sheriff. I highly doubt that Cop Watch or any of these influencers would go to these small towns and even attempt to look at these cops sideways. Now, I'm not condoning violence and saying that you should be heavy-handed, but just to show you the amount of support that some of these police departments get from their sheriffs and also the community, people would never try this. They would never try this. So it just shows you the environment that people in. We don't see videos like this happening in some of these small towns across America. Why? Because they would never stand for it. They would take action, and they would get the support of their leadership and the support of the community.
Yeah. What was I gonna say? Yeah, I just to go back to that video of the detectives. Again, I think we're seeing differences in the videos, and those differences are age and experience also. When you look at the younger guys, they have a different demeanor than the detectives and that last cop. And again, I think well, what we're looking at is a problem that's mainly towards the younger generation of cops. And you know, the detectives weren't perfect, but I don't even fault them for that detective leaning, because again, he's a detective. We don't know if this guy was, you know, if he was in the squad last night and now they asked him to show up for a detail at 8 in the morning, you know. So I think it's a little different. But again, they should have told those perps to back off. Okay. And I say perps because when you start behaving like that, you've crossed the line from being a civilian who has the right to record police and being an agitator and, you know, being aggressive towards the police. So you've crossed the line and you're no longer a citizen. You're a perp then. Okay. But I say, you know, I've said it before that I think at this point, New York City needs like a sheriff from down south to come on in and change things. And the culture starts, again, not to harp on the uniform, but it starts with the uniform and it makes its way into the command presence and demeanor of the cops on these footballs. Okay. If things are broken from the beginning, then it's going to look a lot worse by the time the cop gets out on the street and on patrol. Okay. And yeah, I mean, you look at them, everyone dresses differently. Everyone looks differently. Everyone has some crazy, not for nothing. You know, but these crazy haircuts are another. I feel like I'm becoming an old man or something here, you know, but these crazy haircuts on patrol, I'm sorry. I have no problem if you're in a plainclothes detail, you're a narco and you want to grow whatever hairstyle you want, have at it. But if you're in patrol, I'm sorry, you should be old school, you know, haircut rules. Okay. None of this.
Tight.
We're getting out of hand with this nonsense. You know, you're not looking like you're down for business here, you know. I think that again, it goes with the standards. If things are broken in the beginning, it's going to be broken by the time that cop is walking a foot post.
And Cop Watch is saying somebody threatened his kids. Well, we didn't see it, and if that's happened, then do what you got to do, because we don't support that. I don't support anyone threatening anybody's kids. I don't go after anybody's kids. I don't want anybody going after mine. Same for everybody on this platform. So you're entitled to your opinion here, Cop Watch. You're welcome to, regardless if we disagree with you or not. But nobody should be threatening your kids. And if that happens, it ain't on us. We didn't say it, and if I see it, I'll kick the person out. And then you do what you got to do, because that's I don't condone that at all. I don't give a shit. I don't care if if the person's a cop, if he's one of our biggest supporters or anything else. So, you know, but that's you know, that crosses the line. Somebody's family has nothing to do with us having a disagreement about how things should happen out on the street, you know. And
yeah, that's really crazy what Cop Watch is saying here. First of all, what happened to my kid, I wouldn't want to happen to anyone in this world. So I don't even think we should have that conversation. And I think I've been pretty fair to anyone in Cop Watch, even Jose LaSalle. We had a great conversation when he was on here. I don't wish anyone any harm. I don't take any of this personal, except when it comes to kids. So you can say whatever you want. I would never allow anyone to attack your kids, and I don't expect you to attack my kids. So don't mention my son in this either, please. This is that's a base we shouldn't even talk about. I don't wish
absolutely.
that on anyone. It's the worst thing ever. I've been to war, spent 20 years in the police department. Losing your child, there's nothing like it. It's a pain I have to live with every day. I would not wish that on you either.
Yeah, that's disgusting. I didn't even realize what he said. I thought you were saying about how they threatened our kids. Yeah, that's disgusting. That shouldn't even be brought up. You know, it's absolutely disgusting. So shame on you, Cop Watch. You know, and Danny asked a good question. Why don't people like Cop Watchers get a real job? That you know, and that at the end of the day, that is, if you're an advocate or whatever. What do you guys do for a living besides harass the police and then sue them? Like, could we get a rundown of your roster and like what you guys do for a living and how you earn money and like where your money comes from, how you live, and what what it is specifically that you're advocating for? Because someone else brought it up in here. Your mission was to go against police corruption and police brutality, but yet all we see you turn into is a bunch of little like social media influencers who just want to generate content off harassing cops. I mean, how does that stop corruption? Like, how are you helping corruption or stopping excessive force or anything like that? It's not doing anything. So your own mission is like kind of mishmashed. If you were actually wanted to stop police abuses, I would have some respect for you. But like the reason that most people don't in society, not just even cops, it's because that's what you're doing. You became like little social media influencers harassing cops. It's not cool, dude. It's not professional. It's not anything that makes sense, or you're not even going after corrupt cops or corruption or anything else like that. You're just generating content. It's stupid.
Yeah. I mean, look, when Cop Watch is saying this, I'm like, really, guy? Okay. Your motivation is get 3 cops to quit their job. Are you going after corruption? What are we doing here? Okay. We agree with you. I think everybody in this chat room agrees with you that you have the right to record cops. Okay. That's not the issue. Okay. You can't cross the line though. Okay. You cannot cross the line. And the mere fact that you think crossing that line is your right shows you just how this city's gone over the deep end in placating you. Okay. Because I guarantee you in the old days, that wasn't happening. Okay. And if you got some of us in uniform, you're not coming up to me with that camera in my face. Okay. Like I said, we agree with you. You can record all you want, but you do not have the right to go up in a cop's face. Okay. And you're losing your message is being lost when you do that. Okay. You'll have a lot more support if you don't cross that line. Cop Watch would have a lot more support if they don't cross that line from being from monitoring police and into becoming the show yourself.
You know what's interesting about this, right? Now, I've dealt with Cop Watch for about a decade out of my career, and they expect the cops to, have the resilience and thick skin to handle any situation. But yet, we're having a chat here, and Cop Watch is so personally invested in this conversation that some people on the chat who Cop Watch doesn't even know, these are all handles, and is getting so upset that now Cop Watch wants to respond by getting 3 cops to quit. So you're expecting the police to handle getting ridiculed, suck my this in their face, but yet a conversation on a chat from people that you don't know, from unknown handles, and you're internalizing this and taking this so personal and actually taking shots to be about my kid. Shame on you. You want to talk about crossing the line? Now you cross the line. I've always been respectful to everyone, including Cop Watch. And I don't take anything personal. But once you talk about my kids, you cross the line. No one's going after your kids, and especially mine. You'll bring out a beast in me that doesn't that people are not aware of, because we all have that beast inside of us when it's about our kids. So that's the part I understand. How can you get so personally invested from handles that you're not aware of, that you don't know, that you want to attack the cops? Now, listen, if you want to go after corruption, we get it. But why aren't you at one police plaza and saying that there's a problem with the leadership and this administration, not the cops? The cops are doing their job, but who's directing them? It's the leadership. Why don't you go after the leadership? And Cop Watch says Cop Watch is a threat. You shouldn't be a threat. You should be, if you really want to do some good, you should consider yourselves as a tool to make the police department better, to make the relationship with the public. But to say that you're a threat means that you want a negative response and you're looking for a negative outcome. That sounds personally and emotionally invested. If it's a professional organization, what is the ultimate mission of Cop Watch? I'm curious, since you're still here, Cop Watch, what is the ultimate mission? What, other than you saying threaten and get cops to quit, do you want the police department to be replaced by social workers? What is your ultimate goal?
They went from fighting corruption to seeing cops smoking on duty. Like, So they became inspections, basically. They went with the ultimate mission of being the Internal Affairs Bureau and winded up just being Professional Standards Bureau. So just so you guys know, cops aren't allowed to wear white socks either. So if you see them out there, and most of the uniforms they're wearing are completely out of guidelines. So if you're looking to get them, if you're looking to white socks them, because that's kind of what happened. You guys turned into a bunch of new name for Cop Watch, each will trail a Karen. Oh, here we go. Cop Watch went from going after abuse to getting random cops to quit. Yeah, exactly. That's what they're doing. They're just harassing people. So, people have to listen. People have the right to ridicule police officers. Just do it from a safe distance. And when you don't, and when they don't do it from a safe distance, and they come in and it turns into harassment and they become disorderly, there should be consequences as a result. And currently, there isn't. And that's why the NYPD appears emasculated. And that's what it is. So until we do something about this, expect much, much worse to continue. Expect the morale to stay down. Expect the retention to not be what Jessica Tisch now claims it is, even though weeks prior she said it wasn't. And expect continuous them to lower standards in order to fill these classes, because they're just going to keep filling them with more inexperienced people, and half of those people aren't going to make it to the 20 years, more than half. So I don't know. I got nothing else. You guys got anything on this?
Yeah. Just think of what Cop Watch is saying. He's saying he wants to get 3 cops to quit their job today. Well, what do you mean by that? I mean, if you're telling me that putting a camera in the face of 3 cops is going to make them quit their job, then do those cops belong there? But also, if you're going to go up to their face and agitate them in order and have them get into something with you, so that you can use that in CCRB or whichever oversight body to get them fired, then what are you telling us exactly? Or what aren't you about corruption? I mean, like, you're becoming the show right now, and you've lost. You've kind of went over the deep end, like I said before. Okay, and I think a lot of the problem is they won. People like Cop Watch won already, so now everyone agrees you can record police now. Okay, so now he needs to push the football. He needs to push the goal line a little even further.
Well, that's why I said, if Cop Watch wants to have a professional organization and their mission is to eradicate corruption, they should be at One Police Plaza, because it starts with the leadership. And with that being said, Cop Watch, you saying that you want to get 3 cops to quit, that is like acting like the Civilian Complaint Review Board. That's why I had a problem with the Civilian Complaint Review Board showing bias and disdain. This should not come a place of personal investment. This should be professional, and you want to surveil cops and see if cops make mistakes. But also at the same point, this is my argument to Cop Watch. If you are surveilling cops, when you see cops do something good that's favorable, why don't you put that out there also? That would be showing that you're professional and neutral, that you're doing surveillance, and that you made observations, and you also made observations that are great. And if you're not saying that, and you're just saying you want to get 3 cops to quit, I think what you're also saying, how are you getting those cops to quit? What you're saying is you also crossed that threshold, that you put the cops in a position that they have to take action. So you're proving our point of what's going on with this phenomenon, that people are crossing that threshold and they're putting cops in a position that they have to take action.
Yeah. Screw Cop Watch. We don't need to help them become an organization. So that's it. That's what I think about that. So thank you for joining us here today, Cop Watch.
I'll second that, brother.
Your organization's it's a joke, dude. And honestly, until you guys straighten your act up, we can't help you. So anything else before we read the super chats and get out of here, fellas?
No, coffee and donuts. But like I said, Cop Watch proved themselves as not a professional organization. They're just agitators. Until I see different, to go that low to talk about my son just shows exactly who they are. And they didn't get me then, they won't get me now.
We had to go into this discussion, B98, because the whole episode is about the influencers who are baiting cops and how they're targeting cops, and we have to have this discussion because we're getting to the point we're trying to show you that it crosses the line from saying monitoring police abuse to antagonizing police and agitating the situation.
Yeah. And just before we go into the super chats, just so everybody's aware, next show on the Finest Unfiltered will be 10-4 Tavern tomorrow, Tuesday. Sal Greco show is going to be aired solely on the Sal Greco channel from now on at the Sal Greco. So if you're not following him over there, make sure you go follow him there. So anybody got anything on that, or should we just read the super?
Yeah, no, I think we made some good points. Normally we don't address trolls, and we're very fair on this platform. We allow First Amendment speech, but I think Cop Watch has to be part of this conversation because we're talking about social media influencers and those that actually surveil cops, and Cop Watch is part of that. And we're seeing right here. I just think the point that Cop Watch got angry and personally invested by keyboard, by people behind a keyboard that he doesn't even know, to get upset. But yet you expect the cops to be confronted with live people in their faces with phones in their faces, and you're saying they should just talk to them, but yet you don't want to have a civil conversation on the computer. So I mean, you're throwing stones while you live in a glass house.
I agree.
Coffee and donuts.
All right, let's do it. So Esther Chang, 413, $120 to the Finest Unfiltered. She said, "Happy New Year, officers. Continue to fight for us. Don't give up on us, officers. Respect." Thank you, Esther. Absolutely. That's just, I mean, look, as much as the police are should be held accountable for their actions, right? When they're wrong. I mean, when they're just standing there doing their job, I don't think they deserve to be really ridiculed and treated with disrespect. If somebody wants to do that, you could do it, but to act violent and tumultuous and get in their face and invade their personal space where it falls into now it's illegal and harassment, it's wrong and should be addressed. I mean, so,
I just want to say thank you to Esther. That's outstanding. Really, we appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Hardcore X says, walking up on a cop with a camera, filming juvenile insults, just standing on a post is such a feminine Karen energy. Dudes would fold, no camera in play. Well, I think they would fold, if no uniform was in play, there's no CCRB in play, there's no IAB in play, there's no lawsuit in play. It's just two men. Yeah, I don't think that happens, And again, I just don't. I still say that even with all those things in play, that just shouldn't happen, But 100%, it's feminine Karen energy, without a doubt. And then getting crazy and saying you're going to spit on somebody, that's not even saying anything to you. I mean, like, what are you, out of your mind?
Yeah. Yeah. Hunter. You're right. Okay. All right. I mean, it's sad, but you're right, Hunter. Okay. And
what's he right about?
This is from me. This isn't from the show. Okay. Eric Sanders is a problem. Okay. And it annoys me just as I'm sure it's going to annoy you guys too. All right. It's a problem.
So GS Adventures, $1.99 to the show. Appreciate you, brother. So Hunter said Sal's no longer here. Sad that Eric Sanders ruined that. Look, Sal's still a friend. I think we all love Sal. I think it just is what it is, and I don't blame him, but I think as an organization, we all don't feel that Eric Sanders belongs anywhere on this network if he's not willing to openly debate. He came on here, Marlon put it best. He shouldn't shit where he eats. And that's what he did. He went out, he made multiple posts that were veiled. There were veiled threats of litigation against this platform, and there were veiled comments that we were openly discriminatory, and because of our discrimination, we were spreading misinformation. And for you not to be able to stand on that and then come on here, then you shouldn't be on this network at all. And I think everyone on this network agreed that we can't have that. I understand Sal's in a bad spot because that is his attorney. And I wouldn't want restrictions put on me as to who I can have on or not have on, but he doesn't belong on this platform because he obviously doesn't respect it. He's directly working against us. So and he's continuously trying to push narratives that benefit him. And I don't think the Finest Unfiltered is a place for that to happen. Now, do we have people on here that come on here and want to push their own narratives? Yeah, of course. It is what it is, but it's an open, free discussion platform where we're able to ask questions and go back and forth. When you're unwilling to debate or unwilling to do that, you got really no business here. You know what I mean? So it's no knock on Sal. It's just, you know, I'm still going to follow what Sal does. I'm still going to talk to Sal. He's just not going to air the Sal Greco show on the Finest Unfiltered anymore.
Oh, same here. We all love Sal. I love Sal. Sal, shout out to you. We want the best for you. We want Sal's show to keep growing. But when it comes to the platform, he has a different mission. With you know, and if Eric Sanders is going to be part of that, that's fine. Just as long as for our platform, this has to be the Finest Unfiltered. We don't want it to become mainstream media. We don't want this to have a specific narrative. The Finest Unfiltered will remain this way. We wish nothing bad for Sal. We love Sal. Sal's always going to be a friend. We just have different missions when it comes to the platforms and what we want for this network, and that's fine. And Sal's show will still go on, so please, you know, look at Sal's show, and you know, we'll still have all the archives, you know. So Sal, you know, we want Sal to do well, and he's going to do well. So thank you. You know, there's nothing personal here. There's no beef going on, so we don't want, you know, this. It's just necessary and it has to happen.
Yeah, I 100%. Sal is our friend, you know, and just because we have a disagreement in the direction of the show doesn't mean that he's no longer our friend. Okay, so, but again, yes, Eric Sanders is a problem, and for those of you who are annoyed about it, this situation, I can't tell you how much we are as well.
Jason wants to know, we're going to say what Shell said. I mean, look, we try to get, there's so much stuff that we didn't get to talk about. I mean, just briefly, I mean, everyone sees what Shell said, that he had my jacket, Eric's jacket, Sal's jacket, basically saying that he had all of the information in front of him. And he was reading from it things that were like said in an interview when I went to the squad, where it was like, I don't even know what it was said. It was like that I lacked maturity, whatever the hell they said. I could care less what a bunch of twice divorced, broke, low integrity drunks have to say about me in an interview and write in a thing that I can't see. So I could really care less that Shell has that. But what's concerning about that is, you know, myself and Eric had said a long time ago that the police department was targeting us and threatening us and sending known criminals out of us and sending paid goons, NYPD cops, including an NYPD sergeant who threatened the lives of our kids. And we got the files back from the NYPD. And what did it show? That IB covered up for all the executives. They didn't properly investigate the allegations we made. As a matter of fact, most of the allegations that we made weren't even investigated. The only allegation that they looked into on John Shell was not that he misused police resources, which we said, not that he targeted the platform. The only thing they looked at is to why he ran my name in a department computer. And another person who we made an allegation against, which was now the former Chief of Internal Affairs, Miguel Iglesias, who was removed from his position for his lack of keeping integrity in the New York City Police Department. He was investigating the case that we dropped on him, saying that he was criminally associating and he was part of the whole thing. And so they allowed Miguel Iglesias to investigate this case. And what he did was he just basically walked up to Shell. He informally interviewed him, and he determined that what Shell did was lawful and proper by running my name. But what you could clearly see in an unhinged rant over the weekend is that it actually wasn't lawful and proper what he did. And he still has all of our stuff together. And there's a lot more stuff that I'm sure would have came out, and a lot more systems that would have came out if, in fact, there was integrity in NYPD's Internal Affairs Bureau, but there isn't. And so what happened is that case was never properly investigated by the NYPD Internal Affairs Bureau. And when Jessica Tisch took over and kicked all of those people out of the Internal Affairs Bureau, they still went down the same road with our investigation, and they kept all the prior notes of the people they threw out and stated what their investigation was fact, when clear as day. I mean, I'm reading it and I'm like, it doesn't even look like if you took a third grader and put him and made him a police officer and then put him in charge of internal investigations, like a third grader would have probably investigated the case that way. And what we're seeing is that everything that we said in that case has actually came to fruition, and it has came through fruition by having our access to that case, because we see there was a clear way of not investigating it and making everything seem like it was legit. And it was just, there was no investigation. The only actual investigation that was done was against myself and Eric, where they were looking to seek criminal charges against us and looking to throw us in jail. That was where all of it went. So we filed a complaint after our kids were threatened. We detailed everything that happened prior, and we were the ones that were investigated. And everybody was exonerated. And you see clear as day, Shell threw it out there that he has all of our paperwork, even in retirement, which means he has all our addresses. It's veiled threats. I have all your addresses. I know where you live. And they know a lot of things, dude, because they could get a LexisNexis check done on you, everything. They know how much money you got in your bank account. They know where your kids go to school. They know everything. So it's disturbing, and it's disturbing that this person. It's not disturbing to me how insane he is. It's disturbing to me that anybody would promote this guy into a high rank in the New York City Police Department. Never mind in the height of a corruption scandal, that it was his mentor, out of his mouth, not mine. His mentor. They're gonna promote him to be the highest ranking uniform chief of department. It was an absolute disgrace. Absolute disgrace.
Yeah. And Cop Watch, don't ever fucking mention my kids again.
Yeah.
And I'll leave that at that.
Yeah.
Any more coffee and donuts?
No, just that.
Yeah, and by the way, the fact that Chell openly said that is, think of it, guys. He's a chief, and he not only has access to those databases, but if he makes he has access to, when you're a chief of the NYPD, you have a lot of weight. Okay, you have a lot of weight, and the fact that he's saying that so openly about his access now makes you wonder about the things that he's not telling you about. And the access, think of it, if he made a phone call to St. John's, how much access would they give him? If he says, hey, I want you to, we're looking at this guy, what do you have on him? It's just incredible that we're at this point in history where the former chief uniform officer of the NYPD is so brazenly telling you this on social media. I just can't believe it.
This should be a major concern for everyday citizens. If two retired lieutenants can be this targeted by the NYPD, then what happens to regular civilians that make a complaint or an allegation? What happens to them if they are expressive on a podcast or a network about police department movement, tactics, and potential corruption? This should be concerning for everyone. Now, does John Shell actually have our records? I believe he does. But the point is, it doesn't even matter at this point. Whether he does or he doesn't, what's important is what is the response of the NYPD at this point? Jessica Tisch has been silent, just as her predecessors. Everyone's been complicit as this network and platform has been attacked. We've been public about it. There's been articles about it, and they have not responded in any form. So what it shows that John Shell does have significant power within the NYPD, even in retirement, because the only position that should be taken right now by Jessica Tisch and her jellyfish Mike LaPetri should be that there should be a public response that no retired member of the NYPD has authority or access to confidential records, and that this will be looked into, and a letter of a cease and desist will be served to John Shell immediately. But there's no response. So what that means is that John Shell, figuratively or literally speaking, does have our folders, and figuratively and literally speaking, does have the power within the department that he claims he has, drunk or sober.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think that was, that's definitely not surprising. It's not surprising, but it's definitely unhinged. And so, I don't know. If to say that I'm disappointed in how IB acted and what they did and how they investigated would really be an understatement. personally, me, if I was the police commissioner and I read that, I would, I'm telling you, I would not only remove people from Internal Affairs Bureau, but they would be seeking heavy charges and termination would be on the plate, because it's disgusting that what was allowed to go down. And, you know, it's going to come out in due time. It's going to come out what happened. And Marlon, what the hell's going on here?
I don't know. My screen just crashed. That's weird.
Two Marlins. One's not enough.
Yeah, that was weird. So, but like the whole thing is, it'll all come out in due time. Like everyone's gonna see what happened throughout this whole investigation. You know, not gonna be soon, but it'll come out and it's gonna be talked about and it's gonna be debated, and there is gonna be litigation to follow because it's absolutely wrong what happened. But what, you know, what other people were trying to do is basically co-opt this platform as to, you're going to talk about the things we want you to talk about. And that was basically what the New York City Police Department did, right? You're not going to talk about us. You're not going to talk about this administration. You're not going to criticize this administration. And if you do, not only are we going to send criminals after you, we're going to waste millions of dollars of taxpayer funds to investigate your First Amendment ability. And the same way as this show opened, think about it. They're doing nothing to go after these influencers. They spent millions of dollars trying to not only shut this platform down, but put us in jail. And then allowed someone that said they were going to kill our kids to just basically walk away. Even after they interviewed him and he admitted to the crime. They still didn't go through. They didn't follow through at making the arrest. And then they tried to put it on us. And then they sent cops to my home Saturday night at 8:00 when I had no idea, weeks after I spoke to them. So basically, essentially swatting me, you know, all while Eric's dealing with everything he was dealing with at the time. And then when we get the records, what we actually see is even worse than we thought. They were going through Eric's personnel records to try to decertify him. So basically pull his pension away from him and his kids' health care because he had the audacity. He had the audacity to give his opinion publicly. That was Eric's crime. He gave his opinion publicly. How dare you retire from the New York City Police Department and you ever comment on a chief? That was the mentality of the New York City Police Department. They wanted to ruin our lives. They didn't care if our lives were destroyed. They didn't care if somebody wanted to kill us. And they actually gave them the tools and a free pass to do it.
Spot on, brother. Spot on. They access our records and disseminated information. There's no doubt about it. And John Shell claims that he has our folders. Keep in mind, when he says he has our folders, that doesn't mean just access to personnel records as far as arrest records, educational background. Those personnel records, if in fact he does have them, which we believe, means he can have our social security numbers. He has our addresses, information on family members. This is concerning. Now, you have to ask yourself, the everyday citizen, if you're in this situation, what records will they access on you? So everyone should be concerned about this. Even if you're anti-cop, if you're someone that's complete leftist, you're anti-cop, guess what? We could be you. Because we're not cops anymore. We're everyday citizens just like you. So this should be concerning for everyone.
Yeah. I don't have much to say about that situation again, but it's a shame. Yeah.
KB sends 1013. He says, "Don't ever mention anyone's kid ever," and that is 100% great advice, right? Has nothing to do.
Spot on.
100%. You know,
spot on.
Yeah, so that's it. Look, there was a lot today. There was a lot today that we didn't get through. We'll try to get through it in the next couple of shows. You know, there's just so much news. The news cycle's insane. So we'll definitely get to that. Anything else before we run, fellas?
No. Again, Mark.
No, you go, Eric.
Sure. Again, I just think it's important to note that there's no squabbles and there's no beef here. We want what's best for Sal Greco and we want what's best for this network. Sometimes, just like, bands, rock bands, they have a great relationship. They break up because they go in different directions. It happens in relationships. The same thing happened here. We're going in different directions. We want this to be the finest unfiltered. And Sal Greco, if he wants to have a relationship with Eric Sanders and go in that direction, that's fine. We wish Sal nothing but the best. He's still a great friend, and we will support him. And again, we have to do what's best for this network, and Sal has to do what's best for him. And we're all moving in that direction. So it's important to know that you don't have to move in lockstep to be friends. So I think that's a good message for the upper echelon of the NYPD. In a position of leadership and a position of power doesn't mean you have to fold to everything. Doesn't mean you have to be a yes man. Sometimes you have to stand on moral principle, and you can still have friendships and relationships and have the maturity to put those things aside. So Sal, best of luck, brother. We love you, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I co-sign that, Eric. He has to do what's best for his show. This episode, we had to talk about it, because like we said, that the topic cuts to the heart of a lot of problems in the NYPD, and we don't want cops to get hurt. Again, we talk a lot about having your head in the game, and this is part of having your head in the game, because this is a job that the minute you put on that uniform, you're a target, okay? And you have to have a certain mindset as when you're on patrol out there, okay? But thank you guys for joining us. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you on Friday.
It's Unfiltered. We'll be back at you.
There's a handful of retired officers that don't live in the state that have a lot to say about the dream team, as I like to call it. All of a sudden, they retire and have a master plan on how to fight crime, but nothing to contribute when they were here. They want to come back and be part of the dream team. What can I say?